All right, at this time, we will begin our work study session for April 18th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath.
Present.
Commissioner Howell.
Present.
Commissioner Roberts.
Present.
Commissioner Miller.
Present.
Commissioner Strayer.
Present.
Commissioner Castleberry. Present. Commissioner Gauss.
Present.
All commission members present.
At this time, I will turn it over to City Administrator Greg Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. So our first item on the pre-meeting agenda tonight is a continuation of your discussion that you started last time regarding a request for our remaining Class C liquor license that can be issued pursuant to our quota. You may recall we have a quota of 14. For whatever reason, it's not clear from the Liquor Control Commission why one has come back to them, but one of our 14 quota licenses has returned to the state, and so now is available for us to reissue for what we're told by them. I did give you some information in our weekly report a couple of weeks ago about the situation with liquor licenses in general in the city. In essence, there's 23 Class C licenses that have been issued within the city limits, 19 of which are active, 4 of which are in escrow. That was one quota. Of those 19 that are active, if I recall correctly, in this from memory, I think 2 of them were resort licenses and 1 of them was a redevelopment liquor license. Resort licenses are allowed in certain locations, basically that are on highways where the activity could tend to attract tourism. So we have, like I said, 2 of those which are on in proximity to 223 or 52. And on the redevelopment liquor licenses can be issued when there are no quota licenses available and when good faith effort has been made to acquire one on the market. You can always acquire them on the market from other businesses within the county and transfer them in. And redevelopment liquor licenses require a spend of $75,000 on renovation costs essentially to qualify for those. And so we have one of those currently, which is Chalmers. It was issued in 2019. So that would seem to suggest that in 2019 we were at our quota, and something has come back to the state since then. And it's hard to tell. It's, the state won't identify for us where it came from, but that is the situation. So the question at hand is whether you want to grant that license to Brenda's Little Taste of Texas, who has applied for it. As we talked about last time, and for the benefit of those who weren't here last time, she's relocating from downtown out to strip mall that is on South Main. It's the one where I think Kmart used to be in there, but now it's Big Lots as an anchor. So that mall, that building, that anchor building is actually in Madison Township, but the buildings that are in front of it are in the city. And so she's in one of those buildings that's in front of it, and they can explain their request more thoroughly for you. But that's a little bit background. I think Brenda is here tonight.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'd just start by saying I realize there's only one available, and I know that last time I believe it was Mr. Goss expressed that you guys had talked about maybe keeping it in the downtown area. But I kind of looked, and today even I was downtown working and I drove around, and there's currently like at least 12 places that you can go within the blue lines that already have liquor licenses that are operating in the downtown area. I think Cotton's going to be coming back in, and I heard that there might be one other one coming in as well. Like I said, I tried really hard to stay in downtown, but nothing was available for me. And the buildings that I was offered, I would have had to do astronomical build outs. Out there where I am going, there is currently only, I think, 4 or 5 of us that have liquor licenses out there that are operating, like Applebee's, Red Lobster, B-Dubs across the way. To me, like I said, I didn't want to move, but I made the choice. And so I re-renovated the whole building. It's going to be a very nice place. I'm just trying to build a nice little business for family to come, friends to meet. I would definitely utilize the license. I plan on being open 6 to 7 days a week. I want to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it would definitely be utilized. So I guess I'm just asking for the opportunity to build my business as I've outgrown my little 500 square feet. I just can't keep going down there anymore. I've had to take everything out and put in as much as I could to be able to maintain every day. And I can't go any further. I had to move. I didn't have a choice. So I guess I'm just respectfully asking that I could possibly be granted the license and continue on with my business.
You guys talked about this last meeting, right? And just table it up to. Well, first of all, they have a great business. They have an awesome food, awesome products. I've ate there a lot of times, back when you guys were at the VFW or something especially. I guess my only concern is that when that came back to us, I think liquor licenses are assets, so it's you can trade on the open market, you can sell on the open market, but I guess, our thinking was when we didn't support the other restaurant that wanted it, is that we wanted to use it as a tool to drive somebody into Adrian, whether it be, not necessarily downtown or somebody's going to come in, provide a lot of jobs, and so on and so forth, because they are hard to get if you don't possess one, and the city's only allowed a certain amount. So I think that, I'm talking to you guys, I'm not talking. So I think that if you are wanting a liquor license, that you should, that's the cost of doing business. So, you should have to go either, because if somebody has an escrow, you can buy that, right, from them from escrow?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is some opportunities available for them to have, be able to sell beer, wine, or whatever. But I just think it's way too important of an asset if we're not getting a significant punch of economic development, because we can entice, say, I'm trying to throw a name, say Clay Bonds wanted to come to Adrian, and there's none available. So we can say, hey, well, if you come to Adrian, this is what we can give you in order to come to the city and do business. So I'm not thrilled about just giving it to an existing business. But I guess I'll hear everybody else's thoughts and see what they think. But as of right now, I think that should be used as a tool to drive somebody new into the city that's going to create a significant economic impact.
I think, I feel like you do in many ways. I guess I feel like when this came up for us a few months ago, there was a business out on South Main that wanted it. And around the table, we kind of all said we wanted to keep it for downtown. And I think that we're not setting a good precedent if we do an about face on that, when the way I remember it, we all agreed on that.
I think that was part of it. Part of it with Bob Evans was also that they were going to underutilize. Their whole thing was that they wanted to have mimosas at breakfast. Felt like that wasn't. I think we also felt like that wasn't an adequate.
There was a lack of purpose for it. I feel like last time, and I think Brenda's done a great job of going from, Tuesday nights at the VFW, or I can't remember what time it was. I know I enjoy the times. To building her place that she's outgrown, and her business is thriving and growing. And so is that, something that's going to continue to happen for her? So do we limit her growth and sit on this in case Clay Bonds comes, or do we say this is something that we give to one of our citizens to help their business grow and thrive? So there are escrowed ones. If Clay Bonds wants to come, then they can look for an escrowed license as well. Just to play that side of it, I hate to limit one of our hometown people too, that have been born, bred, raised here. We talk about that a lot. We love our Adrian citizens, and she's done her due diligence to build her business.
Do we know how many are in escrow right now?
4.
When do you think you're going to open? You're kind of a proposed
I'm hoping to be done by June. Right now, I'm at the mercy of other people because I'm having my fire suppression worked on and some electrical and plumbing and stuff. So it's a timeline with them. I have everything that I can possibly do done as far as renovation and everything. So really, it's just a matter of finishing up and getting my inspections. So I'm hoping at least by the 1st of June.
Greg, can I ask a question about those escrow ones? I noticed that the last one, we may have discussed this on the phone. The state of Michigan has this escrow, which I understand was at one time the Good Times Bar and Grill or whatever. Do we know what they're going to do with? I mean, they're holding an escrow license out of Adrian.
I assume they want to get paid the taxes. They didn't get paid by Good Times Bar and Grill, but I don't.
But that might be the cheapest one to buy on the open market too.
Depends how much that.
No, I guess.
What tax bill they had. I mean, there are. I don't remember what they all were, but the one was the place that preceded it's Oldswell Cannabis now, but was I think a Larry Anderson venture down there on West Beach.
That's scary.
That's one of them.
Well, and I know one of them is what was supposedly Bonnie and Clyde's, which is in the old
Right.
golf, the one with the golf painting on the side of it. I don't know what they're ever going to do with it. They haven't done anything since they bought the building from the city and.
But it's not just those four that are
Right.
potentially available to someone. It's any that are in escrow with the county that could be transferred in. The city.
I know I'm caught on this one as well, but I was really thinking in the same lines as Commissioner Castleberry when it comes to, we talk about, we want to bring in new business, but we want to retain the business that we have, and we want to see them grow and develop. And that is what she's trying to do. And she's trying to grow and develop and make it bigger and get her business going and add to it. And so I feel like, just like Commissioner Castleberry said, homegrown, supporting our Adrian people and supporting a business that's been doing so well that she outgrew the space she was in. And we also want to be helping and retaining those businesses. It's not just always about new business, but growing and retaining those we have.
And if someone wanted to come downtown, they could possibly qualify for a rehabilitation one.
Well, like I say, assuming that there are no quota ones left, is one threshold, and the other is that you have to make the good faith effort to acquire one, as well as I understand it.
So when you say there are no quota ones, would those no quota ones include or not include the four that are in escrow?
Would not include the ones in escrow, but you would have to try to buy one of those.
You would have to try and buy one.
Yes. Yeah, but the one that is in our quota that's available would theoretically preclude someone from getting a redevelopment liquor license. Redevelopment liquor licenses are only available for the DDA. And like I say, you have to spend at least $75,000 on renovations.
But hypothetically, if we awarded the license to Brenda that we have available, and someone came in and wanted to redo a building downtown and spend $75,000, they tried to buy one of these other four escrow, they all, for whatever reason, they don't want to sell it, we can't get a hold of them, whatever. There could be the chance of getting a redevelopment.
Yes.
Is that how it?
Yes, I mean, there is a cost to that as well. I think it's 20,000.
25.
Yeah, I mean, for the state, but it's the fee for that, but
And a
yes.
regular one doesn't like it really to award this. It's not very much. If I looked it up. I didn't think it was like $750 a year or something like that. Is that what I'm seeing?
Do you know, Brenda?
Yes, it's right around that, depending on any extras that you want to add on. You can extend your hours, you can buy Sunday sales, you can sell liquor off of your food trailer if you want to. if the city allows. So there's all the, I know, I was.
So the
But,
basis
yeah,
was-
there's all
that's
these
what I
little
thought.
extras that you can purchase, but it's right around the $700
Really
mark.
surprised me. I was expecting.
there-
quite
And
a bit
I thought
more
the same
than
thing.
that.
I thought there were tens of thousands of dollars that they were worth. That's what I thought.
Well, they
Well,
are.
if
Well, they are in the
You
open
know,
market.
On the-
Once- once
So these
they're
four
on
that are
market.
in escrow, if you go to Good Times, you're gonna spend $200,000
Possibly,
possibly.
yes.
Whatever they're,
Whatever
you
they
could, they
want,
could
right.
sell it to you for
Whatever they want.
whatever they
Whatever
want.
they'll pay for
That's,
it.
yes. But the actual license only costs $750.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I.
So
I'm
you
so
control the
surprised
asset
that
and the market will bear how much you can get from it,
Exactly.
essentially.
If
Okay.
there's
The one available.
Yeah.
See, I guess as I wasn't here last week, so I'm thinking that we are sitting on a very expensive asset that we can use to entice people, and we still could, but that I guess changed my position a little bit, because again, I thought that, I remember I used to be good friends with people that used to own Mandy's, and they would tell me how much they sold theirs for. I'm like, holy crap, I'm like, just for that particular license, so that's what I thought. But again, I know, but we're not gonna give that for a company that's coming in. We're just gonna essentially give it to them if they provide enough economic development for us, so.
You could set on an escrow license for as long as you want, as long as you just pay the.
$750 a year.
Generally speaking, yes.
We have buildings that do it. They pay their taxes every year and sit on them and nothing happens. to it.
Well, so Bonnie and Clyde's example.
Exactly.
Is the same thing.
Exactly.
How long ago did the city sell that to them when they were gonna do great things and nothing's happened? But so nothing's happened with the building we sold them. They're sitting on a license. It's not doing us any good. It's not doing us much economic development through by any stretch.
And
there's nothing we can do about it.
do. Somehow we entice them to sell it back to the city. I don't know what we could do with that. This one was a tough one for me while I was on vacation. I did look at, I looked at a lot of the stuff on the state website, and, but I do tend to agree with Commissioner Castleberry. If someone's here who wants to use it, who's from the city, who's grown their business, we should not stand in the way of business.
Clearly has a following. Brenda, how long have you been there?
I've only been downtown for a little over 2 years, but
Yeah.
I did VFW for 6 years. I was down on Beecher for a few years. I did the Eagles for 3 years. I have a food trailer. I've done every event in downtown Adrian. So I've been around since about '09.
Yeah.
Brenda, do you think having a liquor license are gonna bring a lot of new customers in, or is it gonna be a satisfaction for your existing customer base?
No, I kind of posed that question out there. I get new customers. I recently started advertising with WLEN in 95.3. And I have gotten so many new customers just by advertising on the radio. I'm a Facebook person. I tend to use Facebook. You
Right.
get lots of pictures. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Social media can be great if you use it right. But no, I mean, I get people all the time that have never set foot in my place before. So, I mean, I think I will have not only the regulars, but I will also get a lot of new people also.
Right. What happens if the absolute terrible, unfortunate, worst thing happens, that she has this license and she closes in years down the road? That now is escrow for her to sell to anyone that
She can
wants.
sell to anybody. Yeah.
Right, as long as she keeps her license correct.
Yeah, so she has a marketable asset. Just like these 4 escrows or anybody else, she could, if she had it, she could sit on it, or she could sell it on the open market. If you're never gonna use it again, I don't know. I don't understand why these people have these ones in escrow. It just doesn't make any,
Well,
Sense.
They know how much
because
it's
in
worth.
theory, there's a market value.
well, yeah, but if there's a market value, I mean, there's only a market value if you had a buyer, and, a opposed buyer. And, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that, if they knew about this, would probably do it. It's a tough decision, but I mean, I hear what the other commissioners are saying, what the mayor said.
Well, I would like it downtown, but if she's ready to rock and roll, then
I can
let's not
buy
hold
into
her
that.
back.
Yeah, I'd like it downtown
Yeah.
too, but
Just to share a little more, Alan, when she talked to us about it last meeting, she's got legacy, she's got family that plans to take over. I mean, I think their plan is to be there for a very long time.
I think also if we shouldn't worry about our last refusal, because that was a much different situation.
Oh,
She's
sure.
looking at a full schedule of usage, you know, weekly and monthly schedule. The other one was, if I can understand it correctly, was a minimal use.
it was.
Yeah, I'm all for this. I think
The other thing, Brenda, just a suggestion, if you want to close the restaurant at 9, you can always keep the bar open later.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of restaurants do that.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Okay, I'm a convert. I can
Hi.
go for that.
Yeah.
Okay,
You're
well,
the only holdout now, Al.
No,
No, valid point, valid point.
how we work. And
trying to
so,
catch up. You're on.
no, I just didn't know, I thought we were sitting on a couple, $10,000 with the asset. I'm like, wait a minute, you know, but then now I'm educated. I can
That was a valid
I
point.
can pivot.
Valid point.
Yeah.
Discussion is all about.
Well, yeah, I want to sell pizza
Right.
shop now.
That's right, you don't need a couple of bucks coming in and competing.
Well, I'm just using them as I top my head.
Okay,
We welcome competition, by the way.
I know you do.
I would like to know, I know you guys said Bonnie and Clyde and Good Times. What are the other two? Do you know?
they were they're on.
The
that.
fourth one was the
Yeah,
state.
yes.
Yeah,
That's
one
the
is
good
Department
times.
of Treasury.
Seasons, they have one?
No, let me see if I can.
What about the old LA Cafe? Do they still have one?
Sorry.
I think they still
They
have
still
one, I
have
think, yeah.
Yeah, they have one, but it's active. Eclipse is
Exactly.
using that. No, I've got it. It's a matter of finding it. Go on with the discussion. I'll see if
It's,
I can.
yeah, it's not. It's kind of important. I was just curious.
Find it in the email that Greg sent.
We can circle back to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Answer, I mean, if there's a general consensus, we'll have some, an action item for you at the next meeting. That'll be, the first meeting in May. We'll have a resolution.
I'm going to answer the question right now, though. The escrow licenses are on the last page. Larry Anderson's Dynamic Blends, Bonnie and Clyde's, King Dragon Sushi.
Oh, yeah,
Is that the place on South Main?
Oh, it's on something.
yeah.
Down there by Loom and
Yeah.
right next door to Loom, right?
Do they close?
I don't know what their deal is.
So I think we stopped serving
And then the
alcohol.
Michigan Department of Treasury. Those are the four.
I think so. Thank you.
Those are things we ought to work on getting taken care of in the future. But yeah, I mean, I put it on the agenda. I think we all agree that we ought to move forward with that.
All right, next. So if you will recall, when we appointed Mr. Galuli, he was appointed interim city attorney. That was almost 1 year ago now, I think last May. And we've been meaning to have a discussion about what the path is forward in terms of having a permanent city attorney. And so this discussion item is meant to be that opportunity for you to discuss that. In the past, when we've done this, I wasn't here, but gone out to bid for those services. You're not required to by the charter. The charter doesn't require comparative prices for service contracts, only for purchases of goods and goods, not services. So, you know, you're free to choose any process that you like in terms of filling the position on a permanent basis or continue on as you are, but it would stand to reason probably after a year that it's time to make some decisions about what we want to do with regard to the position permanently. And so I don't have anything more to say about it than that. And it's on, for you all to give us some direction as to how you would like to proceed. I think John has expressed interest in continuing on, if that were your pleasure. So he's here to discuss that with you.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
John, I don't know what surrounded the situation with you coming in, but I'm thrilled that you came in to help us and you served with us for the time that he's been here, and I'd be thrilled for you to stay.
Are you good with the arrangement, like, or when it comes to like how can we help you have the tools that you need, right? When it comes to those services, because ever since we had our one update, I've been very happy with the information I get. I read some of it, some of it I don't, because I know what kind of traction we're getting in regards to a number of things, but I want to make sure you're comfortable with the agreement first, because again, we get emails with the updates, right? So we're always informed with what's going on, especially recently. So, I guess if you're good with it, I'm good with it, but I want to make sure you're comfortable with the arrangement and knowing that that you have that resource at your call whenever you need it. So
Yeah, I mean, resource is the right word. I think it's nice to have the resources of a larger firm like John's. And as long as you don't trade accessibility for that, then that's ideal. John makes himself quite available to us, but also has a number of people who assist him who are available to do so as well. I mean, they are distant. I mean, that's the one thing that I will say, is that they're in Detroit and we're here. So coming in person is, it's not a burden on me, it's a burden on John, but he has always taken the position since he's been in this role that when he does need to come here in person, which is more frequently than I know, because he goes to court in person on our code enforcement cases. He only bills his travel from Ann Arbor, which is where their closest office is. And so I think that's a pretty fair compromise. So I guess I'm happy with the services that we get. Good traction with code enforcement, get good communication. We need an answer quickly, like we did today. We get it quickly. Generally happy.
I asked the question I would ask is, if we live up to what we say we're going to do in terms of aggressive light enforcement, there may be more court time than you've been experienced in the past. And if the firm is, you are prepared to spend more time in court here in Adrian, that's fine. I just want to make sure that, we've got somebody, like I said, I'm hopeful that as we move forward with stronger code enforcement and whatnot, that we're going to see more action. So.
I think the courts does a lot of Zoom stuff now too, so I may or may not scroll through every day to see what's going on. So I think that that makes it probably easier too. I mean, able to be on the call instead of in person when you guys can, unless they demand, unless one of the judges demand you be down here. So, but I'm happy. I'm happy with the production we're getting, and
I'm very happy. I was under the impression though that some of your people from Ann Arbor were also taking some of the cases down here.
So thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and commissioners and members of the public. I have been coming to the court appearances when required for formal hearings and the like live. The court has been very good to us and allowing me, for instance, we have 2 pre-trial conferences tomorrow, one of which is going to be dismissed, one of which I'm going to ask for a formal hearing on sometime next month. And I would invite any of you to, of course, come to one of our formal hearings with regard to a nuisance abatement action. It would be very, very telling to see what we're up against, generally speaking, and how City of Adrian employees are really good ambassadors for the city, Jake and Glenn and Jeremiah and the like. So I've been going live to the important hearings. Court's been very, very good to me, permitting via Zoom. those are 5-minute hearings. And there's substantial cost no matter if the person's from Adrian or from Detroit representing the interests of the city. That's all I bill is for the court appearances. We do an immediate order. I know the court's extremely happy with their docket and the way they're moving cases, so to speak, and getting orders entered right away. I try to get you a report immediately with regard to each and every court appearance that we're involved in. As a matter of fact, you deserve a status report for basically everything we do. It's of significant import, and that's what we've been trying to deliver as well. I do plan on being at most every meeting here going forward. Absent something, we only charge, as Mr. Elliott said, from Ann Arbor, either both mileage and time. So it's a 0.8 from Ann Arbor. I think that's a good deal for the city as well. Look, I like to drive out here. I've been driving out here for court and representing the interests of the city of Adrian for 30 years now, believe it or not. It's sort of a relaxing drive for me. I enjoy it to get away from it. It's not bad. I enjoy working with the staff, but also the judges. I think we've made huge traction with the judges in the court system, both district and circuit, and with their staffs as well. And again, I would encourage any of you to come by sometime, see a hearing on one of the nuisance abatement actions. But there's more, of course. I'm working as a special prosecuting attorney in 2 or 3 conflict cases right now for Mr. Castleberry, so to speak. Those are going very well. When his office has to disqualify somebody from prosecute, they can't prosecute somebody because of a conflict of interest, things of that nature. We have other litigation pending. We have some anticipated litigation that may be coming down the pike. But you know what? We've got a good team behind us as well. We've got a very good, diverse team at my law firm. We have somebody who specializes in real estate matters. Courtney Krause has been extremely helpful. We have Ebony Duff, who is a very, very talented female attorney, diverse as well. Does a ton of city work. She's great in reviewing ordinances and the like, things of that nature. We have a good team. If you're happy, we're happy. We'd like to stay. I think the rate that we're providing is extremely competitive. And I think over the last year, you've recognized substantial savings from what you were paying in the past.
I have a question for you, Greg. The litigation, I think everything. Who's reviewing the contracts? Who you review all?
Every non-standard contract goes to John.
Okay,
Everyone,
I was thinking like the fire engine one.
Yeah.
A week or so.
No,
Okay.
I reviewed
In fact,
that.
he changed the
As long as
choice of law provision.
Somebody, as long as somebody's
No,
taking a look at it, because that was my history, and nobody ever wants to hear about my history, but the contract didn't go out without going through the legal department. I mean, that's just the way it went.
I think that's important. For instance, as Mr. Elliott mentioned last week with a fire engine contract, went back and forth with the chief and Mr. Elliott's office. And I told Chief Mazzini, we made one change to one paragraph, but it was critical. They wanted the choice of law provision to be based in Ohio and the Ohio Circuit and federal courts. We said, no, we're going to insist that it be Michigan law, either Lenawee Circuit Court or the United States District Court for the Eastern District. They bought it. We changed the contract. It's
Good.
huge. We don't want to get homered in front of somebody. We've reviewed the contract today with regard to the training and like. One minor change needs to be made for Chief Massingville again. Every contract's reviewed by.
I'm happy to hear that.
At the request of Mr. Kraus and Mr. Elliott. Yes, sir.
Good.
Mr. Galula, you were very generous in giving us the rate that you did. In our time of need, do you plan on changing that at all?
Yeah, I do. If you were inclined to go forward, I'd like to increase it $5 an hour. I believe it's $175 an hour right now that we're billing. I would suggest that that is a very favorable municipal rate. That is my preferred rate for the Michigan Municipal League on preferred cases as well. I've raised them $5 an hour. I'd like to raise the city $5 an hour as well. I look at each and every bill. I know of your past budget. I'm very mindful not to embarrass any of you with regard to litigation costs and the like, or any cost whatsoever.
Wonderful.
I would like to thank you for the overload of information, but it's great.
Sorry.
No, it's great, because we really know what's going on, and I feel that that communication piece has been very instrumental in helping us navigate through, and your advice and just all the information that you're sending us is been very helpful, so thank you very much. And I was actually gonna ask if you were gonna attend once in a while. I wasn't even expecting every meeting, but that's great to hear, because that was gonna be one of my questions for you, so.
No, and I think, it's important. I'm sorry to interrupt, Commissioner. Gat. I think it's important.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's critical, and if I can't be here in the meeting, I will ask another member of our team who's familiar with what's going on. If it's a critical agenda item, but I plan on being at all the meetings, absolutely. If there's a significant weather event or something like I bowed out a month or so ago, we're gonna have somebody here no matter what. We're gonna
Yeah,
have
see, the
somebody.
cookies work, they enticed them.
Yeah,
Last meeting.
that's
what it was.
When we held the cookie up, that's the first I heard that.
Yeah, I'll make it for the next meeting, sorry, John, I didn't have time this time.
I have the mayor's comments, and you've done a great job for us, and I appreciate that. I'll go on the record saying I do read everything that you say, your staff sends, so and I appreciate that, because that was one of the big deals for me in terms of making sure we got those updates. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you.
I'll state my comments now. So I believe that the communication you've given us has bred trust in you and trust in the city that hasn't been there for a while. So I appreciate that. I happened to be in a case last fall with my dog and watched you. You were via Zoom. I was in the courtroom waiting for my case to be heard on 2 different dates and watched you work. And I was very impressed with how quickly things went and how professional everything went. So I can attest that that went very well, even though you were on Zoom, there were no issues. I would like, especially for you to continue as our lawyer, because of the ongoing litigation that you have helped with and alleviated some of my concerns about that we can't discuss, in public, but I have been appreciative of the information and where at least we've gotten to on those concerns. And as someone who's contracted a personal lawyer who I have to pay $300 an hour to view the information that you send to us about that case, I think a bargain at 180 is amazing. So I would like to propose that we do a contract of maybe 3 years. I don't know if that's a normal time span, but it seems like it might be.
Make it less.
Make it last, whatever.
Don't bind yourself for 3 years.
Okay,
And look, give yourself an out clause of 60 days. Don't make any shorter than that in case you want to make a change. You control whatever out clause you want. We can tailor that. Make it 2 years. I would not go through 3 years or any term longer. I don't recommend to any municipality that they go above 2 years for professional service contracts. I know it could be selfish and be good, but you'll have an out clause.
sure.
Thank you for your comments.
Good. Well,
We're
there's no
all
further-
not in the right direction.
Okay, well, that's 2 for 2. No further discussion on that. We'll likewise prepare, in this case, a contract and an appropriate resolution. Bring it back to you. Our next item for discussion this evening are proposed changes to our athletic guild pricing, and Parks and Rec Director Davies is here to go over some proposed numbers with you.
Thank you, Greg. Good evening, everybody. Interesting day in parks. We were mowing this morning. And we're doing snow removal right after lunch, so we ran with it and all was good. As Greg said, what's in front of you are some proposed numbers. And just to give you a little backstory of kind of where this came from, back in January, I had our park superintendent, Jason Lawrence, do cost assessment as we were preparing and revving up for For the spring, and obviously the usage of our fields, I asked him to kind of take a look and kind of present me with some numbers on where we were at. One of the initial things that we immediately saw through conversations with our vendors, one was price. We couldn't even they were extremely hesitant in even giving us a number. And as we kind of pushed and saying, you know, we need these as we move forward to set our rates, as with a lot of things, everything from our vendors was supply chain issues, you know, COVID still backing these things up, certain chemical plants being down, not being able to provide, you know, the necessary materials for this. And over the last 6 to 8 weeks, since we couldn't get numbers, the big thing that was pushed and was relayed to us is they said anywhere from a 10 to 25% increase. So that kind of gave us a little bit of direction on where we were going. And as we've seen so far, we haven't been able to essentially purchase our paints, our chalks, or things that we need for fields kind of in bulk. Essentially, we have an idea of what we would need for the entire year. We're purchasing things on a week-to-week basis. And just the early preliminary numbers over the last few weeks, we've seen roughly an 8 to 15% increase in those costs. So as we looked at it, we also, you know, factored in a little bit of increase in our labor costs. We kind of come up with these numbers, and so that's what you see in front of you. Essentially, an average of a 10% increase in our fields. Now, what you see exactly, and I'll kind of break it down for you. The very first one there is ball field pricing for local teams. So this is in regards to local Lenawee County travel teams or teams that are assembled within the county. Obviously, they're not all city kids. These are more organized groups, tournaments, things like that, that make money for private organizations. So right there, I gave you just an example how this affects some of the fields and your costs. So I put on there Trestle Park. It's one field. You see the 2021 costs. As you'll see with all of these, the weekday practice price doesn't change. The reason that being is we don't mark, chalk, paint the fields for practice, right? They just need a safe surface. So we were able to eliminate that cost. And so we keep that, and that cost is essentially for mowing and what we call rolling the skins or the infield, is turning it over, making sure it's clean and ready to go. So, and then you can just kind of proceed on down, and we go to Island Park as well, our 3 fields. You see again, your 2021 figure, and then our proposed, again, roughly an average of 10%. Again, this is just to cover cost. As we've looked at some of the things in the past, one of the things that I saw is that we were on the brink of essentially operating in the red. And so I simply said, from the taxpayer's perspective, let's just cover our cost. We're not making money with any of these proposed changes. This is simply covering our costs, and it's the price of doing business. So there's a breakdown of those 2 fields. The next section down, you see ball field rental pricing for non-local teams. So these are travel teams outside of Adrian and Lenawee County, as well as event organizers. So this is, and we see it all the time, you know, there's people from Ann Arbor, these organizers, they come down, they say, hey, we want to take Heritage Park for the entire weekend. Again, they're a private entity, and they're making thousands of dollars, and it all's going to their pockets. So these are the rates that would go along with essentially that type of situations. So I broke it down for Heritage and Riverside. You can see those prices there. So one other thing to note at the top, we aren't changing the rate for charitable organizations. We rarely ever see that type of situation. So a charitable organization would be a nonprofit coming in, just putting on a little fun day, church organizations, things of that nature. That rarely ever happens. That hasn't happened in the last 2 years. It's, you know, it's very infrequent. So that's why we're proposing not to touch the charitable organization prices. And obviously, we are still supporting the Adrian Area Little League, and so they are excluded from those prices. However,
excuse me,
sorry, yes, Gordon.
Jeremiah, so what do we charge the charitable organization?
So they're at a 40% discount off of these numbers.
Oh.
And that's been well, before I got here, that's been the going rate, so.
Thank
But
you.
again, it's just rarely does that ever happen.
Jeremiah, have we looked at, we have from what I understand, a pretty nice disc golf course.
Of course.
I don't really know
Course.
much about it, I guess, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, it's like a golf course.
Okay. Is there been any interest in that? Have you looked at fees for that or?
So it's funny you mentioned, so I had 2 meetings this week with 2 separate organizations that are involved with disc golf. There are a couple, one is Golf 517. Then the other one is a couple of gentlemen that are a part of an existing, just an open league night that they do down there. They have a ton of ideas in regards to that. We're actually going to address that and we're talking about fees. So one of the disc golf, the Golf 517, they're proposing, and we have another meeting next week, they want to host 3 disc golf events. And so they've shown me numbers that they've done in previous areas, and they've had well over 100 participants that come and play in these. So they want to bring vendors and things of that nature. So that is something that we're going to revisit once they give me some little more concrete numbers. And then I would talk to Greg and come to you guys and talk about, but currently there isn't a rental fee for the disc golf course.
Okay.
But that is something that, again, like I said, has just popped up in the last 2 weeks.
Well, the rental fees for these are based on what we have to do as the city to take care of them, the mowing, the lining, the caulking, that kind of thing. What would we do for this golf course? Do we mow around the stand?
Yes, so that, those are the questions that I asked, and they essentially, it's gonna come down to, for example, one of the gentlemen from Golf 517 emailed me, this is how our conversation started about 3 weeks ago. He said, just so you know, you have a tree that's fallen down over hole number 6. I'm like, perfect. So we got our crews out there. Within a matter of days, it was cleaned up and he responded, said, thank you very much. And he said, I have an engineer. So please come down to, come in, let's talk about it. And then again, we have another organization that's reached out. So in regards to the maintenance and upkeep, it would just essentially clearing brush. There's a few areas where some dirt kind of washes over, so we can kind of clear that out and build it up. But overall, there's not a whole lot of maintenance in regards to those. Because they like, some of the areas, some of the holes, they love the low hanging brush and trees and limbs because it adds to the course. And it's something that they have to work around. So instead of having a clear line of sight, they like to have to maneuver around.
Like a sand trap or
Correct.
a pond and like a golf.
So instead of just having a straight shot, they've got to bend it
Mhm.
around this tree that's hanging this way.
But so on a day when there's not tournament, in the middle of the week, on a Wednesday afternoon, anybody can go out there and play disc golf.
Yes,
I mean,
and actually I was out there Thursday afternoon and I was shocked to see how many people were out there. I was out there for 2 separate meetings and I saw probably 40 to 50 people
Wow.
pulling in or coming out.
But that would be
And,
the same with any of our, I walk through Trussell Park every other day and there are people down there playing baseball. And we don't charge them.
That's fine. I mean,
Our parks are getting used.
good. That's good news.
The fees would just be in a situation like this where they're bringing outside folks in and obviously they'd be making money.
Like events per se,
Events,
instead of
correct,
like,
correct.
okay,
Correct.
gotcha. The fees are based on like, say like the Adrian Dirtbags want to rent a field for an hour for practice and then so our other citizens can't utilize those parks. That's why, all
Mhm.
right, well, you want this situated time slot allocated, then you gotta pay for it
Mhm.
essentially, so.
Yeah,
And
it's
we're
like
in
our
full-
pavilions, if you want a guarantee, you
Yep.
get Island Park Pavilion for a graduation party, you come and pay for it, otherwise you take a chance.
Right, and our fields are in full swing at the moment. So last week started practices for Little League, so that is full on moving ahead and we're fielding calls left and right in regards to outside organizers wanting to come in and say, how many fields do you have? What are the sizes? And they want to rent them Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we're full, like I said, we're full speed ahead in regards to our field usage.
So you're pretty confident with the numbers you've crunched here that you will keep yourself out of the red?
Yes,
just barely.
Yep, just, yeah.
Can you go into some explanation on the soccer and football field?
Yep.
The decrease?
So the next page I have for you there. This was kind of a pleasant surprise, but obviously it was something that needed to be addressed once these came back. So you'll see essentially a substantial decrease.
Yeah.
So my first question was how and why? How did we get from this rate down to here? Two things that came from that, and me asking, our superintendent, one, more manpower. So a lot of these rates, over the last couple years, when we were short a few more people, we had one person doing these fields, and it takes a substantial amount of his time, essentially a full day, to do installs. So having more experienced, full-time employees has been tremendous. Guys, and girls who are experienced this, know how to do this. They've cut down the installation time, almost a half or even more than that. In addition, we have some newer equipment that's used in striping that makes this so much easier. So it's, again, we looked at the numbers, how long it took, and there was no choice in bringing these prices down. So that's why you see a substantial decrease from last year to this year. The one change that you won't see in regards to the football fields, the full-size football field, that is a full-size 100-yard football field. So the amount of materials that it takes to put in, that kind of sticks there. However, we haven't done one of those in years. So if we were to get somebody to come in this year and say, we do want to put on a full football field, which there is talks with the YMCA and Adrian Public Schools. And if we do decide to move forward with this either this summer or in the fall, that'll be a perfect time for myself to look at the numbers and adjust accordingly.
Think this would generate more usage with bringing it down as well, the cost? I know there was some, I don't know, there was something going on in social media and didn't pay much attention to it at one point about FCA was gonna look at only using Mitchell Park and not using, because we didn't want them, and I caught wind of it, but then it seems like it kind of, there was a lot of miscommunication and it all got figured out, but it sounded like it was also a cost factor, so that's why I'm asking.
So in regards to that situation, that had been a conversation that had been going on for months. That particular organization operated at a minimal cost. We were in the red
Okay.
substantially. And so again, I gave Jason the directive, going forward. I said, let's get into a cost analysis. And I said, from moving forward, we're not gonna operate in the red. We need to at least cover our cost. Look, as we go forward and kind of enhance the parks over the next few years, how can we generate some revenue from these? But I said, I don't want to operate in the red anymore. So we just passed on and said, this is what, upon commissioner approval, these are the rates that we're looking at. They weren't happy about it. And so
That's what I said.
emails and things like that were
Emails
slung
are
around. However, they're here because we do, to our credit,
Ours are much better.
they
Right,
have
so-
said,
Yeah,
we have the best fields,
Right,
some of the best surfaces in the state of Michigan in regards to playing travel soccer.
They're very nice.
I
So,
think in regards to that, you might be good, because my neighbor was one of the ones that was not happy his kid plays in, and he knows the difference in the quality of fields that in the city compared to Mitchell Park. And I told my neighbor, I go, listen, we're just trying to have it a wash. We're not trying to make money off that particular entity, but we can't subsidize a travel team. This is not Little League, and then he understood, he shifted his focus more so towards the gentleman sent the email out. Give us an opportunity to pay $10 more a kid to be able to afford that, to be able to use these high quality fields instead of the ones that are not in the city.
For being a
So-
player and a coach, there's a purpose for that. Those are safety issues.
Right.
So we don't allow our
Right,
children.
but the
to
parents
feel
weren't allowed
hurt.
the option to pay a slight increase. They were just,
but
The
I
city
didn't
didn't want
even
it,
know
which is
if
not
that
true.
would just, if there was even like ways of promoting to get more tournaments to come in, because we do have these great fields and our, hey, our rates are even better now, and I didn't know, where the focus was on that. That's why I was asking about it.
I know Jason's done that in the past. Because he would call me, he would text me like when they have tournaments for my North Store, because like we get slammed in the mornings if they have, when the school district had their runs out there. So he did a good job of trying to fill those fields every weekend, different kind of events, and he'd always tip me off. So he does a good job of that, trying to market the fields and so we can make a little bit of money on the outside teams coming in, not our own
Mhm.
community members, so.
And mind you, in regards to, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
I was just saying, that in mind you, in talking about this soccer organization, stuff, these are not all Adrian kids. These are from around the county. So, you know, and in talking about this, again, like you said, Christel, we're not subsidizing the entire county, right? And so it was simply a conversation that we said, upon commission approval, these are the rates that we would like to see simply to cover our costs. Because we were losing money hand over fist with the current situation and rates that were set in certain organizations. So,
So I have a question, Jim.
Yes.
What really, I'm looking to dispel some rumors that have been floating around. Someone is alleging that the YMCA uses our fields for free.
not true. They're
Okay.
charged.
It's the charitable
Yep.
organization. That's all here. Not having an answer.
So you will review this.
Yes, Staff works on fields. We document that.
So we run on such a tight budget. You know, last thing you want to do is run into it.
Right, correct. And so again, that's how this all started. Like, I want to have a look at this and see where we're at. So this will be a yearly evaluation.
The Island Park fields are all up and usable this year.
Yep.
I know they had a lot of damage a couple of years ago, and I don't think they're being used.
Yep, they're up and ready to go, as long as we don't get flooded and things like that. Issue, but they're up and ready to go. They've been turned over. And mowed.
Oh, it's snowing.
Thank you so much for the information.
Any other questions?
We've gotten a few emails about pickleball.
Yep.
So it's a work in progress, I understand, but it's something that we're working on. It was something that we didn't have a full understanding about. We're trying to look at getting a good program, and potentially there's potential even to do tournaments for pickleball in the future as we look into that a little bit more.
Yes, so just to kind of refresh your memory, so when I started in November, this was one of the many projects that was kind of put on my plate. And obviously, starting in November, going through the winter, I've had time to really take a closer look at some of these different projects. Obviously, we can't play outdoor pickleball during the winter. And if you remember some of the emails, one of the main things that we were looking at was the surface, right? That's the old ice rink, extremely pitted. If you go down there, obviously today's a bad day, but when it dries out this weekend, you'll see large, massive amounts of black spots. That's from it holding and retaining water. So as we start reaching out to the experts and people that do pickleball and tennis court surfacing, they said this is a terrible surface because of it holding water and things of this nature. They're like, we can't warranty any of our work, and we don't even really want to be a part of this. They're like, you're in for some trouble. So that allowed me to start reaching out to other municipalities. My friend is the superintendent up at Livonia Parks and Rec. So I went out and talked to her, looked at their surfaces, talked to their engineers and the people that did it. So we started getting ideas. The first initial conversation was to put a 1-inch asphalt overlay over that entire surface. But as we started reaching out and talking to our local vendors, we even talked to Todd Brown from Smith, an engineer, people that have an idea how to do this stuff. Everybody said, in theory, it sounds great. You put the 1-inch asphalt overlay over the surface, then you have the final seal coating that comes in. A gentleman named Mike Lage has been instrumental in helping us understand this process. However, they've all said you can't put that asphalt overlay over the concrete surface like that. It's immediately going to dissipate, it's going to fall, and by next summer, you're going to have 1-inch cracks everywhere. And in addition, they've also said, we won't even bid on this because we can't warranty the work. So obviously that moved us into some more research. We looked at bringing portable courts, essentially plastic surfaces that snap together, and that just, you know, in reading about it, it's, again, here in Michigan, it's not a good surface for us to put down. An update, so we're continuing our research and trying to find the best surface, because I don't want to just go out and paint lines and have it look terrible and have our name on it, right? Our citizens are better than that. We looked into some more research and we found some vendors that do what's called diamond grinding. So we're actually, this is what we've, again, speaking with Nathan Smith and a few other experts, they have said if you grind diamond surface, clean the surface, laser printing or whoever we go with has said that surface we can work with and we can warranty our work. So we're actually gonna put out to bid, hopefully by the end of the week, we have the specs set in place for a vendor to come in and do this diamond grinding on the surface. So we're gonna have pickleball this year, I promise you that, so.
Thank you for doing your due diligence. I think it's,
No, I think
we didn't have new thing. I didn't know what it was. So thank you for doing your due diligence and making it a good place for pickleball.
I guess my other question, in regards to pickleball, like, you know, I know we allotted you for that or allotted Matt at the time being for the project. Do you feel comfortable with that number when it comes to, because you just said it, I think we're all in agreement of, we put a significant amount of resource into a aquatic center study, right? To hopefully brainstorm collectively and get that project going eventually. But do you feel that the money we allotted is enough to, again, like you said, not just paint some lines down? Are we gonna have something that we're all gonna be proud of, you're gonna be proud of, and our citizens are gonna be proud of when it comes to the money we allocated for it?
In my personal opinion, I think we're walking a fine line at this point. Once we send out the bids to have this diamond resurfacing done, that's gonna tell us right away when they say this is what we're gonna charge per square foot. We already know what it's gonna cost for the final product per court, what that's gonna be. We've got a couple vendors we've talked to, they're literally right in line with each other. So we have a strong idea of what it's gonna cost. The one variable and the one thing that we don't know yet is how much this resurfacing is gonna cost us. Doing research online, I think we're walking a fine line, we'll see. As soon as we get those bids back for the diamond resurfacing, that's gonna tell us everything right then and there, and we'll know fairly quickly. But again, to answer your question, we're walking a fine line at this point with that.
Well, I think if it gets to the point where you get the bids back and we're cutting close, then you should probably go to Greg, and Greg can come to us and see what we can do to help, because we don't need all the bells and whistles, right? I mean, because matter my size, I used to play tennis back in the day, so you know, the older I get, you know, that probably be a sport I would transition to myself, and then I just don't want something cheap. I mean, we have some resources, we have some funding that are pretty much allocated for capital stuff, and that's a quality of life amenity that I think that a lot of our senior citizens definitely take advantage of it. So just if you're talking about what we allocate is paint some lines, then I think that, you know, you can get with Greg and then he can get with all of us and see where we're at and see what you guys want to make it look nice.
Jeremiah, I know there's progress being made on the splash pad at Parish Park. Can you give us an update on?
Hold on, we still have
One
some
second.
questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we're looking at putting in 6 courts.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Oh, so that was 4. Nice.
Sorry. That was just great.
And I would agree with Commissioner Halt that we want it done well, we want it done nicely, so it's going to last. And that we gave an idea of what we thought we would be spending, but if it goes over, it's okay. This happened with the dog park and there's, you know, some issues. Well, we thought it would cost one thing and then the fencing bid came in higher. That happens. So if the bids come in higher, you come back to us and we allocate more funds. That's just how it works. So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just get an update on the splash pad project.
So yes, so the splash pad is full speed ahead. They just finished putting in the pad, all the sewer lines. They just left the other day. They're gonna be back August 26th. They're gonna hook it up. All that's left. April 26th.
I was like,
I'm sorry.
She's doing so well.
They will- Our installers will be back April 26th. They're gonna have the final pieces. So essentially what's left now is just bringing the big plastic pieces that you see at a water park. They said that'll take them 1 day. We already have training for our entire department on the afternoon of April 28th to learn that. And the splash pad will be ready by May 1st.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Yes.
Like I
Great,
said,
it's gone, yes,
I know it was it's nice to not push away our whole summer.
yes.
Nice.
So by June, when the kids are out, that thing will be up and
Wonderful.
Right there in the neighborhood.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Awesome job, Jeremiah.
So we meant to have on the pre-meeting agenda, but it got missed.
Yep.
The discussion of memorials. We talked about the bench program in the past and how we've kind of run out of spots for benches and meant to have a discussion of what's next in terms of remembering people and what our criteria will be for doing so. And so if there's time left, which I think there is, and if you're so inclined, we could have that discussion, start that discussion at least now.
And Commissioner Strayer and myself and I can't talk today. I'm that. Commissioner Strayer and I and Jeremiah met and started having this discussion. Specifically, we met about Greg Adams and, we had that discussion before on, possibly, an honorary road, but then once you go, and we further discussed this with Greg, and once you start on that and you start doing honorary, everybody's going to want to be naming all of their honorary, they're going to want honorary road signs on every road, and then you have the upkeep and, once they'll start to go bad, who's going to replace it, there's things like that. The idea we came up with together, I don't know where it's progressed since then, but was that there's an empty space if you were to look at the farmer's market. I know we're going to probably rename it or whatever, but the farmer's market pavilion, like there's the two sides. We proposed that he was going to start getting quotes for us, but like a nice plaque there, like maybe it's something with an outline of Greg, on there, but a quote about Greg, and just in talking about that, but to honor Greg right there where the start of Erase the Stigma is, right in that center section, because there's actually room there. And I know Jeremiah was going to go out and look at it after we had our discussion, so I'm not really sure where that went, but then that led into us, discussing benches and trees and things of the like. And, one of the questions that I asked Jeremiah was just, is this something where can we always just keep planting trees? Like, is this something that we can do? Like if somebody wants to, put a plaque and what are we looking at? And they pay for the full cost of, putting that tree in, because that's not, a cheap thing to have happen. And I don't want that cost being a burden on the city. So, that would be something where they purchase the tree. They're paying that fee to have that tree planted, but how we go about where is it going to go? What does the plaque look like? So everything is uniform, and those were things that Jeremiah was going to be looking into.
Yep, so in regards to we talked about a memorial for Greg Adams. We talked about a plaque. It's simple. I've reached out to a few different vendors, looked online. It's a fairly simple process. So at this point, receiving a directive from Greg and you guys saying, let's go forward with this, I can immediately bring you numbers, sizes, things of that nature, give you some options to look at, and we could easily do that for Greg. In regards to talking about some of the benches and trees, that's been my recommendation as I came on and started looking at this. Not that I'm against memorial benches and things of that nature, or other dedicating a different memorial, things like that. But when we're gifted essentially a liability at some point, right? We're gifted this, we put it somewhere, but then there's no plan in place to take care of maintenance costs and things of that nature. It becomes a problem, then it falls back on us. So us being the Maple City, having 600 acres of parkland, my idea and thought with our arborist, let's continue to keep the theme of our city. We can come up with a variety of fantastic maple trees or whatever else would work well in the habitat that we have around here. Designate a tree with some sort of plaque with that. And so that was from Jason, our arborist. That was his recommendation. That's also my recommendation. If you see benches and stuff around town, we're doing snow removal, the slightest little clip with machinery breaks them or catches them and just in general, sitting out in the sun, snow, rain, all that, they begin to just look rough, and then we're, starting to look at some and go, well, who's gonna pay for this? So that was kind of in regards to memorial dedications and stuff like that. That was kind of my recommendation to kind of start moving things towards the park.
Have you figured out any pricing on that is one of my questions. And another one of my questions, I know you were gonna go look at that space, at least for Greg, because we were talking about, erecting it like on a pole, so like it's at like the height to read. It's not something down. It's that it'll be noticeable to be right there in the middle. I didn't know if it'll work to still do that, because you were gonna go out there and take.
That's really something that we do in-house when it comes to mounting or erecting it in that designated location. That's something for the city that we can do. So essentially, the cost that you're talking about, we're looking at in regards to that specific situation would just be the cost of a plaque. And that can range from $50 to thousands. It's essentially us just saying, we want this size, this is what we want on it. And that's something that can be done. It's fairly simple.
Any idea on the trees yet, to what that?
We'd
would
like
be?
to stick with some sort of maple tree, right? But I mean, we can use a variety of different things. I also would kind of concede to Jason in regards to looking at the different habitats and things of that nature and what, existing trees and brushes are in certain areas. He has recommendations. This is what he does, and he understands way more than I do in regards to that. So I would fall back on him and saying, what do you think our option should be? But again, we're the Maple City, so that's obviously something that we could immediately go to, because there's a variety of maple trees. So
Is this something we need to worry about as well, though, even with maintenance, even with trees? Because I mean, trimming, what if one dies, or what are our thoughts when it comes to those logistics?
well, when you talk about trimming them and upkeep, it depends on where you put them. Like if we go out to a selected area out at Heritage Park, the tree grows and we let it go. If you're talking about, this is where it does get sticky here in the city. We have boulevard trees, we have trees downtown, and we run into those instances. With the windstorm the other night, we had to call our crews out. We had a couple down trees that were ours that had fallen on people's property. So immediately we were there cleaning those up. I would say we should be very mindful. If we're talking about putting stuff in the city and downtown, we really need to take a look at where it's going to be at. And then again, I would refer to Jason and saying, okay, what's the group look like? Is it gonna damage lines, sidewalks, things of that nature? But in regards to our parks, there's really no upkeep. You can just put them there and they'd be okay.
But even in the parks, I would rather see a tree that isn't going to grow very large. That way, it stands out more than the other trees as it grows.
In one of those, perfect example of that, at Bird Ponds, out towards the road, there's a string of smaller trees. In my head and talking with Jason, that's something we could do to identify, because we just want to take a memorial tree and stuff it in the woods somewhere.
Right.
It's not there, but that's something that could easily be done. But again, locations is a big deal.
We're gonna have some qualifying, we can't just put a tree up for everyone. So are there gonna be some qualifying metrics for that?
I would
Were there
say,
qualifying for the bench? I don't even know if that was.
We can only put up so many
I
benches, so.
don't know, exactly.
A lot of trees.
How was it handled?
Jim decided.
Yeah.
We can only do
How was
so.
it handled with the benches?
There's
Well-
bench every 5 feet.
I do not believe that there was any.
There really wasn't.
First come, first serve.
You want a bench?
Yep,
Maybe $500
there
like
wasn't.
that?
That's why I was asking, yeah.
Oh, the only thing about this, it's also cost prohibitive. Not everybody's gonna get a tree. Some families are just not gonna choose to do that.
The benches were pretty expensive. The group had to raise the money, because I know the group came to me to raise my husband's money for the bench. And I would guess it was $500, $700.
$500,
something like that.
if I remember right.
Yeah, so it's not inexpensive, but the students raised
I mean,
it.
both of my benches cost that much.
Yes,
I don't know.
yes, no, they did, someone paid for them, not the city.
I would just say as we go forward with that, upon your, when we decided, you guys decide to set those fees, mindful that this takes time, right? We have to pull our crews and stop everything we're doing. to do these things. So it's one of those things. I love the idea and I don't discourage the idea at all. However, there is gonna be a cost to this because we do have to stop and pull our guys to go, so we show up on a Monday morning and I've got 50 trees, that stops us from maintaining the parks and everything else. So however, whatever parameters or pricing is set in place, I think should take into account those labor costs and time.
Or is this something where we look at, like, there's a lot of places where they have bricks, like on a walkway. Do we have a pathway where we look at, engraving bricks instead? And, is there a spot, or is that something that's even more cost prohibitive and more maintenance? I'm not really sure. I only bring that up because a few people have reached out to me, my mother did this, blah, blah, blah. Do you do a brick program? They don't live here, by the way. They live out of town. That's why they didn't know that. And so but their mother lived here and had just passed away. And, they were like, we'd like to have a brick in her memory. Do you have anything like that? And so that's kind of why you and I started that conversation because of that message to me. But I didn't know if that was even another thought. So it's not taking as much time away or, I don't know, just throwing that out there.
Jeremiah, could you look at what some other communities are doing and see if there's something that
Sure, I would say
strikes a chord for us?
any
maybe?
ideas that you want, please relay to Greg and then I'll start investigating those and come up with some options.
Right. Thank you.
Well, that was all I had for this pre-meeting there. And that's public comment.
All right, at this time we will have public comment. Just to reiterate, there's a 3-minute time limit. And for the record, please state your name and address.
Dean Ramos, 422 South Winter Street. You should know me by now. So a few things. I'm excited to see some support being put behind the local business. Definitely glad that Brenda is getting more support than Bob Evans. So pretty excited about that. And really interested to hear what the next memorial things are going to be. And of course, really excited to hear about what's going on with the parks, especially the one that Gordon brought up, the splash pad. That might be a little closer to where I normally see. So I'm really excited to see that put in.
Mr. Heath?
Yeah, is there gonna be any food trucks allowed in the parks this year?
They are allowed in the parks.
Yes.
Oh, they are?
If they want to pull a permit, each park has a designated number of spots. Each park that has a parking lot.
I mean, just wonder.
Depends on the park. It's only the parks that have parking lots, obviously, but each park that has a parking lot has a designated number of spots that the commission established by resolution.
And they have to follow the state of Michigan fire suppression rules and all that.
Well,
They
can't
gotta get a
permit
permit.
with
Well,
us.
I
They gotta get a permit at a
You
time.
gotta get a permit from the health department, that covers everything.
Mm,
No,
no,
not everything.
No, it does not.
Nope.
No.
It's our park,
Open
so
discussion.
you gotta get a permit from us.
Well, I know that, but I mean, to make your truck legal and everything, it's gotta be done by the health department.
The health department only looks at the sanitation aspect, and then our fire chief looks at the fire suppression system. on their truck.
How many food trucks do you have?
Two different things.
Ben Tokar, 110 South Local.
Go ahead.
Doesn't want to talk.
Can you hear me?
That'd be a change.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
No, we can't.
And I'm going to talk about that later in the meeting, but now this one has to go back to the March 28th meeting. I've gone through the records and I don't think that the city has ever approved the meeting minutes for March 28th. And you're going to talk about the budget. So can you really vote on the budget if that meeting wasn't approved? People have talked about they dislike the consent agenda. And I think that's one of the issues.
Yeah. Ken, you are cutting in and out a lot. We have barely gotten anything. I don't even think I think we can hear us. Well, all right. Any other public comment?
Is this the portion where we speak about the garbage contract?
You can. We did not discuss it pre-meeting, but you're allowed to, yes.
My name is Matt Brockway. I live on State Street. And I just had basically one quick question, if I could. And that is, does the garbage contract as proposed adhere to the Headley Amendment? And does it pass the three-prong approach designated by the Michigan Supreme Court in regards to user fees and or taxation? That was it.
Can we ask Mr. Gallowy to address that question?
You could.
I kind of briefed him a little bit before that, before the meeting. This is the gentleman I talked to this morning on the phone in regards to the Headley and some of his concerns. So I told him it's above my pay grade, so I defer to you.
John, yes, could you address that?
I can. I assume the gentleman is referring to a case called Bolt versus City of Lansing. It's the seminal decision, so to speak. It's been a decision on the books now for close to 30 or 40 years. I do believe that any measure taken by the city commission tonight would not jeopardize the city with regard to a Headley violation, so to speak. Headley violations are typically phrased in terms of, or litigated in terms of what amounts to basically a hidden tax by a municipality for no apparent reason, so to speak. And I have litigated that we've been threatened before with Headley-based litigation within the city of Adrian. It has not come to fruition, so to speak, because I don't believe the city of Adrian is violating the Headley Amendment in any way, shape, or form. I have litigated several class actions against the Kickham Hanley law firm on this exact issue. And I'm very confident that whatever action is taken tonight will pass legal muster and will not violate Bolt. And I would also urge caution against too much reliance on the Bolt versus City of Lansing case. We have distinguished that in papers filed in the Michigan Supreme Court before we settled on behalf of DeWitt Township. And there's a lot of misplaced reliance on the Bolt decision, a lot of it.
Any more public comment? May I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Or,
All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Regular meeting will begin at 7 p.m. I call to order the Adrian City Commission meeting for April 18th, 2022. If everyone would please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath,
Present.
Commissioner Halt,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Miller,
Present.
Commissioner Strayer,
Present.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Present.
Commissioner Gauss,
Present.
all commission members present.
May I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So move.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Strayer and Commissioner Miller. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Consent agenda approved by an all yes vote.
Before we move on to the regular agenda, we have a proclamation that we will be presenting tonight. We have a representative here, Ethan, are you from the Child Advocacy Center? From the Child Advocacy Center. So I'm going to bring him up and present. So Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month and Sexual Assault Awareness Month actually began at the beginning of April, but due to it being spring break time for many, they could not have a representative here to receive the proclamation. So they asked for us to do it at this meeting. So that is why we are doing it in the middle of the month, just to clarify. Whereas April is Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month and Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the nation and has been recognized by the state of Michigan. And whereas Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month seeks to raise awareness in the community that child abuse and neglect is a community problem that depends on people in our city standing and speaking up for the children. And whereas nationally, statewide, and local child abuse is considered to be one of our nation's most serious public health problems, with evidence-based studies showing a link between child abuse and neglect victims, and a wide range of emotional, medical, psychological, and behavior disorders like depression, alcoholism, drug abuse, severe obesity, and juvenile delinquency. And whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month is a time to draw attention to the prevalence of sexual assault and educate individuals and communities about how to prevent it. And whereas sexual harassment, assault, and abuse happen in all communities, and together we have the power to change that. Whereas the Lenawee County Child Advocacy Center works diligently to make positive change for the children of our community and bring awareness to these important issues. Now, therefore, I, Angie Sword Heath, Mayor of the City of Adrian, do hereby proclaim April, oh, I'm really messing up tonight, sorry about that, April as Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month and Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and recognize the Lenawee County Child Advocacy Center for their work in our community. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for all you do. Do you want to say anything?
Just thank you to everyone. Yeah, just thank you.
And I do have one question. Truckapalooza, how did that? I was at Truckapalooza, but yes, in how many? Do you know how many funds you raised with that?
Over $2,000 were raised, and there was over 1,000 people, families, and children who attended. So it was a great turnout from the truckers and from the community as well.
Yes, it was a great event. It was very cold that day, so I was very happy to see how many people were out there. But thank you for hosting such a great event, and thank you for all you do in our community. Moving on to our regular agenda, we have special orders tonight. The first one being Special Order 1, a public hearing to hear and consider comments regarding the special assessment role for delinquent rental property registration, inspection fees, parking assessments, improvements or abatements of public hazards on single lots in the city of Adrian, and other miscellaneous invoices, including a 10% penalty for late payment. Just to clarify before I open up this public hearing, that May 2nd, rental property registration and inspection fees will also be on that agenda, as they were not noticed properly. So we will hear them tonight, but we will hear them again May 2nd. So if somebody was not able to come tonight because they did not know, that is something that we will be hearing again on May 2nd. Also want to let you know that any objections that are brought to us tonight will be reviewed. There is no action being taken tonight. So any objections that you bring will be reviewed by our city administrator and city staff, and they will be in contact with you on those objections, but there will be no action taken tonight. So I just wanted to clarify that. So at this time, I call the public hearing open. Anybody that wants to come up can just come up right up here and state your name and address so that they know. Thank you.
Scott Bayshore, my address is 1045 State Street. This is on the letter I received, and the lady said this is the proper place to bring it up. One of the line items is a snow removal of $579 dated 12/18 of 2021. The city didn't do my plowing for that whole year. So I was concerned about, why is it on here to go on my taxes? Why am I getting charged $579 for a year I presume that's a year of snow removal. Can anybody tell me what's going on with $579 for snow? They didn't do it. I do my own. I have a snow blower. That that was for the year, for the entire 20 to 2021 snow year, correct? Can we know that?
These are things they will clarify with you. This is a public hearing. We just listened to you at this point.
Okay, because
yeah.
Somebody told me that that's 1 day's worth of snow removal. And I went, $579 for 1 day of snow removal? They plowed my yard one time. I work nights. I know that there was some heavy snow one day, and there was one strip down the one side of my yard. My yard's not even marked right. My address is 1045 State Street. Google puts me in the middle of the block. I'm on the end. My driveway's on Dawes. I back up against the city or against the stadium. I don't even have a good address. Yeah. I get confused if anybody shows up, if medical shows up, or if we have to call an ambulance, or when the mail gets delivered. It's really a funky thing. It takes some time for somebody to figure out where I live. But $579 seems unrealistic for if it's 1 day. And the one day I did get up late and then blew out my own yard, there was one strip down one side. So you guys just listen. You can't do anything about this, is what I'm hearing, correct? They don't do anything today?
There is no action even being taken today.
Okay, so
it's
how do
just
we get this
listening.
resolved? You'd listen, and then you guys what happens?
Do you want to take that over?
So we'll review them all before the next meeting. The next meeting of the city commission is when they would actually confirm the special assessment role. And so we'll determine whether, based on the objections that we hear, whether they should remain on the roll or
Okay.
not.
And I would say that if it was for 1 day, that's an exorbitant amount. Okay, whether or not you agree with that, but that's an exorbitant amount. And I had no notification that they were going to assess it. Hey, if you don't get your yard plowed or something. I do know right about that time there was heavy snow the night before when I was headed to work. And when I got up, no, at 6 a.m. in the morning, I think my neighbors would be upset if I'm running a big snow blower up and down the street. So I did wait till the afternoon before I went to work to clear it. And all that was cleared was one strip down there. That's all they did. So if somebody came through, and there was other yards with it or other areas within Adrian that weren't done it. So is it an arbitrary thing? They just drive around and say, I'm going to do this one and then charge him $579, but they didn't do it for the year. So.
Hello, my name is Dorothy Schmidt, and I had a situation this week, which is like that. I asked when the compost site would be open, that where we normally drop our leaves across the over by Siena Heights.
Right now, we're hearing public. It's a public hearing on special assessment role.
This is a
Okay.
special assessment that I heard on the radio just before I came in, that someone addressed the city to add $240 to our trash pickup. And
Yes,
was
that's
gonna
not,
be-
that's going to be in a few minutes. That's not special assessment role.
Okay,
Okay, so we will have time for
Okay.
that in a few minutes. You'll know when that we do that one.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay, so you just, I step aside and go on with the regular business.
Yes, and when
then,
we get to, there'll
talk
be
at the
public
end.
comment for that in a few minutes. Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Hi, my name is Linda Martinez. I talked to Ms. O'Connor today to try to figure out what we were supposed to do. We have a property that I am one of the directors for Americans with Down syndrome and autism. I'm also a federal agent for the United States Department of Agriculture and the Department of Natural Resource Conservation Service. So because of the 501c3 nonprofit, I've taken my own time to do the testing and stuff like this and the property of 1016 Treat Street. The property is horrible. And we didn't realize it when we went in for auction to purchase it. Now we know why nobody else bid against us. But in order to get it, the property ready so that it's an enhancement for the community. And that's what our idea is to do, is to open up property that is handicap accessible. We have to go in there and do a lot of dirty work in order to get it fixed. And I did some soil analysis, and when I went in to go do a water analysis, I was told that I couldn't even turn the water on after filling out the application and having it turned on. So Gary came out there, I guess he's worked for the city for about 14 years, and said he hasn't even been out there for a year at least, not maybe 2 years, he said, that nobody ever paid their bill. And when they did, it would be on for a short period of time and then off. What my objective here, what my idea is to do here is, I know that you guys have a very lengthy paperwork and sent from the office in Westland today. They sent it in before 4 o'clock, and it's a lot of work. I took pictures. I had to go in there and take pictures because I tried to do a water sample, and there's a pipe broken down. And when the pipe when Gary turned it on, I said, "What is that noise?" And we were trying to get a soil sample from, or a water sample from the toilet, because there's no plumbing hooked up anywhere in there. But the plumbing on the bottom, it sounded like Niagara Falls. I'm not joking. It was rushing through. And so we turned it off right away. We turned it on 3 times total, just trying to get a water analysis. We do know that the building needs to get work done and stuff. There's a bill that that they're getting billed for, but we put different exhibit A, exhibit B, and so on, so that you could see that this is something that should have gone to the old landlord prior to, because it was open for a long period of time. I have pictures where the meter is not even on there, and that's what I brought, just so that you have pictures. I don't know who gets them.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to? Yeah, right here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Josh Moore, and I'm here in reference to the properties of 600 East Beecher and 620 East Beecher. It was the old Goodwill building, and we purchased it from the tax sale. And we had read through the Lenawee County Land Auction Sale Book, and under the rules and regulations, had read that according to the state statutes, all prior liens, encumbrances, and taxes for years prior to 2021 are canceled by circuit court order. So this was the first time we had purchased anything from the tax sale, and was not aware that there could possibly be some bills from a prior owner. But we did receive a bill for $775 for snow removal and 2 different grass mowings of $160 a piece, as well as a delinquent utility bill from a previous owner from quite a bit prior to when we purchased the vehicle, or not the vehicle, the property. So our whole idea for purchasing that was to kind of clean up the neighborhood. We've owned the dealership across the street for close to 40 years, and we'd kind of like to clean up the neighborhood. And I guess the reason we're here is to see if we could appeal to remove that expense, because the $1,800 could go an awful long ways towards cleaning up the property. So brush removal, paint, some different things we had in mind for this summer. So we would appreciate the consideration if that amount could be removed, so we could apply that to beautifying the property a little bit. So thank you for your time.
Hearing no more comments, I now call this public hearing closed. Moving on to special order 2.
What about Zoom?
It's a public,
Zoom. You forgot Zoom.
yes, it was open at any time. I now call the public hearing back open for any Zoom participants.
Ken Tokars, 110 South Locust. I have concerns about the city and their record keeping and how the records are kept on BSA. I read through the city meeting minutes, and I was surprised to see that I'm on the special assessment roll. And I went and looked, and we paid our bill in December, but this bill was for September. So I contacted the city clerk, and basically when we went to go pay the September bill, instead of it was the $36, it was like $3. So I kind of question your guys' record keeping. I got cut off earlier, and this has to do with record keeping, which is relevant. And I do not see the meeting minutes for March 28th. And you guys never approved those meeting minutes. I'm curious about the March 28th meeting minutes, because you had a commissioner who was approved to be absent, and you had another commissioner who approved that absence, and then he left 20 minutes later, and then no action was taken there. So that's just another example of where you guys aren't keeping records. So it makes me question whether you're capable of creating a special assessment district if you can't keep accurate records.
Hearing no more public comment, I now call this special order closed. Moving on to special order 2, a public hearing to hear and consider comments regarding the special assessment roll for delinquent water and sewer charges in the amount of, my brain is not wanting to work today, $16,431.48, including a 10% penalty for late payment. At this time, I now call this special hearing open.
Would that be appropriate place to ask a question for direction? As part of that, I guess I had missed, where would that just be paid, or where can I see for the sewer that wasn't paid for certain months in last year? Do I go to that site and I don't see it? Do I just call the city clerk? Is that the way to deal with that? Or, because I didn't miss it intentionally, those payments. I have payments on here as well for sewer that was missed. I usually just go on and pay my bill, and I didn't see it on there when I was paying it. And I don't see any charges for like past. How would I handle that? Could you just give me direction while I got you guys?
Just call the utilities department.
Just call them and they'll tell, because I can see it here, just call in and pay the 4 months of 33 or whatever it was. Okay. Does it usually carry over if it's missed this month? Is it supposed to in that system, or does it drop and go to somewhere else? Do you know?
It should carry over.
Should carry over. Okay. I don't remember seeing it. I apologize. Thank you.
Just open for complaints on yard mowing.
This is just water and sewer. That was the last one. Were you coming up before? Okay,
I was planned on it.
all right, we'll hear you. Go ahead.
All right, I got name's David Kovaleski. I live at 111 North Pearl Street in Tecumseh. And over there on 613 East Bristol Street, I got a bill for putting on my tax rolls for mowing. Well, I have a guy that does the mowing over there at two different houses. And I came to see you the first time, Mayor, and you weren't here. And one of the girls left you an email. Well, no response. Second time I came here looking for you, they said you were working another job. Can you work two jobs and be mayor at the same time? When I was working, that would be called double dipping. So anyhow, the third time I came here, we had a meeting in the room. You remember that? And you told me there would be pictures of the grass is up. I never seen those pictures. And you took my name, address, phone number. The only thing you didn't take is my weight and my height. But anyhow, you could have found me any place on the tax rolls. And can you tell me if anything's been done? Has anything been done to look at this?
It's been sent to the correct people that were supposed to send you everything, yes.
Yeah, well, maybe you ought to start firing people. I could think of a whole bunch.
Again, my name's Josh Moore. I touched on this a little earlier. I just wanted to make sure I'm on record now that we're at the right section, but I was just here to protest a delinquent utility bill for 600 East Beecher in the amount of $732.69 for a bill that we had received. This was most likely a water bill from quite some time before we purchased the property. And again, that's another one that if we could have that waived, we could apply towards cost of repair to improve the facility. So just wanted to get that on record.
I guess that's what I need to do too. Linda Martinez, 1016 Treat Street. Yeah, the delinquent bill is from some time back, and not, it should have been like on the year before taxes from that person back. And that's why it's such a hefty. I don't know if any of you opened up the emails or whatever, but it's a very hefty thing. I seen it and I printed it out and I was like, holy cow. But it is a discrepancy that we feel that needs to be addressed. We are a 501c3 and we do want to try to take care of everything. And, you know, that's why we're checking the soils and the waters and everything in there so we can clean that area up. So, but when we were looking through everything and did some investigation, we thought this should have been like the year before's taxes, not this last year. It should have been, you know. So anyways, I just want to put that on record. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments in the chambers or on Zoom? Hearing no more comments, I now call this public hearing closed. Moving on to special order 3, a public hearing to hear and consider comments regarding the adoption of the fiscal year 2022, 2023 Budget and General Appropriations Act. At this time, I now call the public hearing open.
Ken Tokars, 110 South Locust. The meeting on 3/28 for the budget was never approved. The meeting minutes were never approved, so I'm questioning whether or not you can have this vote today. Thank you.
Joaquin Ramos, 422 South Winter Street. When am I not talking? So I just want to say, of course, there's a lot to dive into with the budget, but I didn't see anything particular that's specifically set aside for revitalization or blight remediation. So I hope that you'll put an amendment of some sort to help tackle that issue further. As of course, the more funds put into it, the more likelihood you're going to get hit out with in a quicker time without harming as many people. I could say a lot more on it, but that's all I have for now. I'll talk more public comment.
Hearing no more public comment, I now call this public hearing closed. Moving on to resolutions. Resolution R22-025 is from Finance. It is a resolution to approve and adopt the fiscal year 2022, 2023 Budget and General Appropriations Act. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Support.
Are there any public comments?
Ken Tokars, 110 South Locust. My concern with the budget doesn't include anything for the replacement of lead pipes in the city. There's lead pipes, about 2,000 according to the Great Lakes Water Authority, and there's no money in there to replace lead pipes. Thank you.
Hearing no more public comment, are there any commissioner comments? Commissioner Halt?
Anytime the city administrator can bring us a balanced budget without using fund balance, that tells us that we're living within our means. I remember back in 2015, Commissioner Sherrick can kind of attest to this, that we balanced our budget without using fund balance, but we did no capital projects at all. That was our means of, but that can't go on forever. You have to invest in infrastructure. I'm excited about all the projects that are going around the city currently, and also balancing a budget that's it's not taken away from our savings. Mr. Ramos, in regards to the budget line item for blight remediation, obviously, we have to adopt the budget by a certain time via state statute, so we have to adopt the budget, but budget amendments happen all the time. So, myself and our colleagues will talk about how much we're going to earmark for that and how we're going to distribute that to the folks that need it when it comes to blight. But I'm just excited that we can adopt a budget with all the good things that are going on capital-wise without using our savings. So kudos to Greg and staff, and move forward.
Hearing no more commissioner comments, I have a motion from Commissioner Miller with a second from Commissioner Gauss. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry. Yes. Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Hell,
Yes.
resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Moving on to resolution R 22-026 from engineering. It is a resolution to award a bid for refuse and recycling collection services. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution.
Support.
Are there any public comments?
Can we ask a question of how many bids were accepted? Is that an opportunity to do that, or you can't give that out at this time? How many bids were accepted, or how many bids were out there? Quite a few? Okay, because rumor mill, the first time I've ever been here was that Stevenson said, you accept any others, we won't submit. That wasn't the case then, correct? Okay, so we did accept for multiples, and we're trying to do that and stuff. Do we know whether or not it's going to include recycling, like single-use recycling, single bin recycling? But it's going to cost, correct? There's going to be an additional cost to the homeowner? Okay. Because if we had that, would that not save for what we do at the recycling center down there behind the bus barn? If we had single bin that was a part of our trash bill, I don't know about anybody else, me personally, if it increased my bill a little bit, not hundreds of dollars, a week or a month, but if it increased it just a little bit each month, I'd pay for it for single use and a single bin. It's a lot simpler for everybody. And a company like Stevenson's makes millions of dollars a year at their center. They're designed to handle that.
I brought up before, Joaquin Ramos, 422 South Winter. I brought up before, and since we're talking about trash, I'll just bring it up again. For this or other services, if we're ever worried about how much it's impacting our citizens, like price-wise, there is the option to subsidize up to a certain degree. The city has some funds, and of course, some projects might be worth a little bit of subsidy. That's all for now.
My name is Dorothy Schmidt, and I'm at 428 Elm Street. I questioned the trash pickup for leaves. I called the city and they said the leaves were no business of the cities, that it had to do with the county. So I contacted the county and they said because the compost site is not open. And we normally just transport things to the compost site ourselves and clean up after ourselves. So I have all these raked leaves in my yard in the appropriate bags, which I have to pay for. At $4 a package. And so I called the county and they said the compost site would be open the first part of May. And in the meantime, if I just put them out in front, the city, they would be picked up. I said, well, then you've got to charge. Oh, there's no charge, she said. Not from the county, but the city is using its transportation system to take the leaves to the compost site. So I said, number one, I got a $30 increase in my phone bill, and I questioned that since January, $30 more. And so I questioned that, and they said, oh, you can see it on the bill, it's all taxes. Where the taxes are coming from, I don't know. And so obviously they want to redo the city trash system. And there's been a lot of discussion about it with people, particularly in outlying areas and people who are seniors who say there's no way I can wheel a cart down my side drive, which is 300 feet long. I'm not able to do that. That was not my problem. Okay. But being a senior, am I collecting everybody's problems and given one big tax bill to resolve everybody's problems over a specific age? If I am,
Your time is
I'm
up.
being
Thank you.
billed. I'm being billed. Okay, and I'd like to know where it's all coming from. Thank you.
This is the proposal about the refuge, the increase in the refuge. My name is Sharon Griffith, and I live at 675 Stone Ridge. There are 25 houses in our subdivision, and 7 of those homes are single resident houses, and they're people that are over 65 years old. My husband and I are way over 65 years old, and we could not possibly fill 2 bins of trash. And also physically, I could not, or my husband could not take those bins out to the street. I don't know who's benefiting by every resident having to have 2 huge containers. I also don't have enough room in my garage if I put my cars in my garage to store those refuge containers. And it's a rule in our subdivision, they must be out of sight and in garages. And I would like to have addressed who is benefiting from changing this to such an exorbitant amount of trash to be considered for each residence for every week and every 2 weeks. I share a recycling refuge container with another resident. Even both of us can't even fill one of those in 2 weeks' time. So it just seems like too large of a stretch to make this large of a choice of requiring residents to take care of handling that kind of refuge disposal, as well as even with all of the expensive groceries and everything else changing, doubling our refuge collection is really, I think, out of line. And I'd like to be on record, and I'd like to hear how you would answer all of those questions before this is decided.
Don't look so glum. Now, how many lead pipes did they say had to be changed? I want to get this story straight. So did he say 2,000?
Right now, we're talking about recycling and trash.
Well, that's to recycle those lead pipes. No money to change them? How about the little kids? They drink out of that lead pipe. Don't they get brain damage?
Larry Heath, Terrace Avenue. The size of these totes is just outrageous. It would take me 6 months to fill a 95-gallon tote with recycling, at least 6 months. And I only put out 1 13-gallon bag of garbage a week. And I mean, that's overkilling it for us older people. Most of the time I go out and eat. I don't even cook at home or nothing. So I think it's kind of ridiculous, especially the price if you don't need it. I mean, the county's got a recycling deal. I take it down there. It costs me nothing. I mean, I'm not lazy to put it in my car and take it there. That's all I got to say.
Can you just reiterate what your exact address is though, please? Can you tell us your exact address, not just Terrace? Thank you.
1205 Terrace Avenue in Adrian.
Linda Martinez again, 1016 Treat Street. So there was a bill that I paid on, and there's still some more left on that bill, but I paid it up to date on it. It's for garbage pickup and there's nobody in the building at all. Is there any, I don't know if there's any way to not do it until after the building is prepared for anybody to live in there, but nobody's living in there. And the last time there was a garbage bin there, we rented a huge garbage bin and started gutting everything completely out before it got to snow. So the next bill is going to be in July. And I assume that there's going to be garbage then, but I don't understand why it would be accumulating when nobody is actually taking garbage out of the building at all. So I'm just questioning, I'm wondering.
Brad Watson, 144 North Scott Street. Contrary to many comments tonight, I'm a huge fan of my totes. I use it. You can just put stuff in it from your car, your garage. Doesn't even have to be bagged. You just put it in there. I don't have to wheel it up every week either. I just do it when I need to. Quite convenient. I appreciate the totes.
Hearing no more public comment, are there any commissioner comments? Commissioner Gauss?
This whole issue of trash and recycling is a complicated one. And I think no matter how we vote tonight, we're going to have about half the citizens upset with us and half of them happy with us. That's many times the case. So we do have a difficult decision, but I just want to state my position on this. First of all, on the issue of trash, I think every home here in the city generates some amount of trash, enough to fill up a 96-gallon tote every week. Probably not. Some will, some won't. For the ones that don't fill one up every week, they don't have to put it on the curb every week. Accumulate it until you've got a full tote and then put it out. As for the elderly and the disabled, their inability to get the tote to the curb, there are provisions within the proposal that allow them to contact City Hall, get their name on a list, and Stevens will actually pick up the trash the way they pick it up now in bags at the street. But again, it's for the elderly, it's for the disabled, but you can get on a list. So there's that provision. Overall, I think totes for trash are a good idea. I think they'll help keep rodents from getting into the trash bags at the curb and that. So that's how I feel about trash. Recycling, I'm a big proponent of recycling. I've done it for years and years and years. I have 2 totes at my house, one for trash, one for recycling. And we generate a lot more recycling than we do trash. But we do that by personal choice. And my wife and I support that. And we got Earth Day coming up on Friday. So we look at it as a way to, to help the earth, if you will. But again, I think it's a matter of personal choice. And I don't think that our government should be dictatorial about mandatorily requiring that people recycle. They can, you can make that choice. I would encourage everyone to recycle. That's the way I feel about it. But I'm not everybody's decision maker. For that reason, I hesitate to move forward with the recycling portion and the totes for everybody. That's where I'm at on this.
Commissioner Strayer.
First of all, I think it was obvious from listening to some people tonight that maybe everybody's not totally familiar with what we're voting on. And I just want to make sure that everybody realizes that each person, each household would get a 95-gallon tote for trash, okay? And like Commissioner Gauss said, it doesn't have to be wheeled out every week if you don't have enough to fill it up. Every resident or every household, again, would receive a 95-gallon tote for recycling. If you choose to not recycle, you can turn that tote back in. So if you don't want to recycle and you don't feel like you have room for both totes, you don't have to accept it. It will be picked up. I know that at our household, we don't generate much trash at all, maybe one bag a week, but we do fill up our recycle bin every 2 weeks. And we have a very good system at our house for dealing with recycling. It's incredibly easy. And when you're putting the recycling into the recycling container, you're not bagging it up, you're not sorting it or anything, you're just putting it in there. So at our house, we have a small bag that, we look at something and it's either trash or it's recycling. If it's trash, it goes in one container. If it's recycling, the other. And then usually once a day, we take out the recycling, put it in the big bin and just dump it in there. The process is very easy. There would also be yard waste collection as part of this and a bulk collection period included. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew exactly what we were voting on. I guess part of this, and this is just me talking, it's not the rest of the commission talking. I feel like making these 95-gallon totes available for recycling is basically giving the community a gentle nudge to take part in recycling. And I know that some people look at recycling different. I know that we have the recycling station over on Race Street. I've been over there myself when I've had large boxes and things like that that don't want to fit into the tote. So I utilize that service, but I don't take a paper plate over there. So I guess I feel it's very important for the community of Adrian to take part in recycling. I don't know if all of you saw on the front page of the newspaper this week, I think it was Sunday, there was an article about recycling and about the fact that Michigan ranks extremely low in recycling throughout the country. And to me, that's kind of embarrassing. And I'd also read, and it's a couple of years old now, so I don't know how relevant it is, but Lenawee County ranked pretty low in Michigan. So, I just want to see us up our game some, and I feel like this is a good way to do it. As far as trash goes, I had to go up to St. Joe's Hospital a couple weeks ago, and I can't tell you exactly the road that we were on. I don't know if we were actually in Ipsy or Ann Arbor, but the neighborhood that we drove through, it was trash pickup day, and every house had a tote. Okay, it just looked so much better, and we have been making a real effort to tackle this blight problem. And this is just another way to do it. And I know this is not a forever commitment. This is a 5-year commitment. And it can be looked at down the road, but I feel like it's going to make our city look better. It's going to nudge us in the right direction as far as recycling goes. And the cost is not that much greater than if we just had, had the price increase that was going to come along with this new package as it is. So the cost of including the totes, I think is only like $6 every month. So not a great increase. I think this is very good for Adrian, and I hope that we can pass this tonight. There's one question that I have, though, that I agree with about 95% of what Commissioner Gauss said. He mentioned that if the size of the totes makes it so that you're unable to move that tote around, which I think almost everybody will find the totes extremely light, even with trash in them. They have very good wheels on them. But Stevens did tell us to our face that provisions could be made. And that's the way I remember it. Provisions could be made. I don't remember them saying that you could still put bags of trash out. So I don't, that's sort of a gray area for me. But so I wanted to make that point. But I hope that we pass this tonight because I feel it's, excuse me, important for Adrian.
Commissioner Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. So I would like to address some of the costs that we've been discussing, and I want everyone to remember to know that you have not had an increase in your trash bill for 7 years. 7 years. So think about what you paid 7 years ago for a car or for gas, and think about the percentage increase, just taking gas, the cost of gas, and what you're paying now. So for 7 years, you've been paying the exact same amount, $120 per year. So just remember that. This is not it's not a usage fee, it's a shared fee as being a part of the city residents. There are a lot of things that I don't use. Let's take the county site, the county recycling site. I don't use that. I still pay for it in my county taxes. I still pay for it. You still pay for it. Those of you that use it, you are paying for it. It's just not a line item. The only difference is that this is a line item on your taxes that you now know how much you've been paying. If we got the county together here, which we have a county commissioner who went through every single line item, and we found out you were paying $100 a year to have that, to have those bins out there, and they decided to raise that to 150, would you all be going to the county commissioners and complaining because you haven't had a raise for that county site? Maybe, maybe not, but you are paying for it even if you don't use it. There are a lot of things we pay for as being a part of a city, as being a resident, as being a part of a community that you may or may not pay for. I would hazard to guess that there are a lot of us who no longer use Bone Pool. Part of your taxes still pay for Bone Pool. You just don't know how much they are. The only difference is right now, you know how much you are paying for taxes and recycling. That's the only difference. Now, saying that, I have some concerns about the storage issue. I have a very small house. I have a very small, my garage is so small, we can't fit our cars in it. It was built in 1950 or something. So I have listened to my neighbors, and there are some storage concerns. Their driveways are not wide enough to have the car and a bin on it. They don't have garages. They're the way that they're fencing in their backyard, they can't just wheel it around to their backyard to have it there. I have listened, I have read, I have spoken to especially my neighbors. I totally get that. And honestly, I'm still not sure which way I'm going to vote tonight, because I wanted to hear from my fellow commissioners and you before I made this decision, because I do have some concerns about people having two totes. that want them. Now, again, they don't have to have 2 totes, but 1 tote is something that's going to be there unless you need it for ADA or senior citizens. This is a tough decision. It really is. I want everything to look nice. I think part of it is what Commissioner Strayer mentioned. Part of the bill also comes in with that, the bulk trash collection every other year. Now the city doesn't have to budget for that money. That was a lot of money. I think $120,000 to $160,000 that we just had to come up with. That's a lot of money to just come up with. That now we know we will have that money, and you can guarantee every other year you're going to have that bulk collection. Not everyone uses it. The last time we used it, or the last time we had it, I doubt I put out 3 things because I just don't need to. But there are other people on my street, it seemed like they barfed up their whole garage. So again, it goes to, it's not a usage fee. It's a communal kind of fee and a communal thing. What do we want our community to look like? What do we want our community to strive for? How someone asked something about who's benefiting from this. If this goes through, I hope we all benefit, because it's going to make our city look and feel better and bring us into a new century of recycling. Those are my comments.
Can I ask another question?
No,
No,
just
you
commissioner
cannot.
comments now. Commissioner Halt.
I'll be brief here. I guarantee if you poll any city commissioner in the last 60 years and ask them how fun the trash contract is to vote on and approve, you would get 100% agreement that it's the worst contract that they support or deny. But it is our most expensive contract. So there's obviously a lot of moving pieces to it. Like Commissioner Roberts said, we have not had an increase in 7 years. And when we gave Stevens the contract last time, that was not bid out, and it was still contentious. So the mayor, Commissioner Strayer, and I, again, we spent a lot of time on these blight committee meetings along with our city administrator and some community members, how to combat blight. We need to clean our city up. Simple as that. And some folks can say this again, like the other meeting we had, the forum, that we're being aggressive. We're taking an aggressive approach, but my opinion is drive around other communities and see if they allow trash bags in the street. Most don't. City of Toledo doesn't. So my position is that, even if we keep it the same service, it's $5.83 per month more to have totes. Why would we want totes? Well, because totes, some of the communities that we've researched when it comes to blight remediation, most of these cities have gone to totes, not only a tote, but a tote with a lid. So this is not, you put cost into the equation, and along with Commissioner Roberts, we've gotten some emails with some skinny driveways that some citizens have issues of where they're gonna put it. But I think the bigger picture is, again, I'll use Commissioner Roberts again, is like, what do we want Adrian to be? Do you want us to be the same? Because my constituents that come into my business or approach me, they want us to clean the city up. So which direction are we gonna go? Are we gonna stay the same, or are we gonna be progressive? We have 2 options here. Whether it's the point of sale ordinance, whether it be hiring more code enforcement officers, CRC directors when it comes to our revitalization efforts, we need to clean the city up, and this is a small component of it, because again, we can sit up here and say, you wanna know what? There are some citizens that have some concerns, we'll keep it the same. You're saving $6 a month is what you're doing if we keep it the same. So I support this. This is just a small piece of the bigger picture on what we're trying to do when it comes to looking out for the safety and well-being of our citizens and improve the quality of life. And to drive through our city, drive down Main Street on Tuesday morning and see it. Bags of trash everywhere. It's time for us to have action now, in my opinion. And I'm excited about this small component, and I do have some concerns, like some of the folks said, in public, and Commissioner Roberts expressed it, but I think it's one of those times where it's like we have to be progressive. We have to change the way our city looks. And I've been committed to doing that. And that's why I support this proposed resolution.
Like Commissioner Halt said, I sat on the Blight Committee group with Commissioner Halt and Commissioner Strayer. And, this is something that we were told and we looked into, and I was on board. I've really, though, I have to listen to what the public is telling me. It may be a few. And yes, does the squeaky wheel get the grease? Yep, it does. And unfortunately, I have to listen. I've literally had 90% negative emails and calls and stopping me in the grocery store or wherever I may be. This is all everybody talks about is trash. It has literally become like, I'm like scared when I see people because I know they're going to come at me about trash. It happened on Saturday. And and I'm not hearing the other 10%. This is a hard decision. It really is. And unfortunately, when we're elected into these positions, we need to represent the community. And if we don't hear from the entire community, it's very hard to make those decisions. And I will say one thing that I've heard a lot is I know we had a lot of responses and people seemed favorable to totes, but the one response I've heard, especially from the elderly and the low income population within our city that maybe don't have access to Wi-Fi, they didn't even know about this survey. I've heard that over and over and over again, that they did not know about this survey. So maybe those survey results would have been differently if we had heard that, and we didn't. Because they didn't even know, they didn't even do the survey. So do we need to evaluate and look at how we do those in the future? Probably, to make sure that we're reaching the entire population of our city when it comes to those surveys. It's going to be a raise in costs no matter what it is. It's going to be, $51 a year, even if there was no change in your service at all, due to the fact there hasn't been a raise in 7 years, that all the bids came in higher. There's inflation. You all know you're all paying an exorbitant amount for gas and food and everything right now. And do I still think this is the right thing? Yes. But do I think it's the right time? No. I really feel we're not ready yet. And yes, maybe we're not progressive enough, but I feel that there's been so many changes recently with inflation of our food, of our gas, of so many utility costs, everything going up. I just really feel that there is already going to be an increase no matter what, but I just feel like I cannot vote for that high of an increase. I know that will translate down to a lot of tenants, and we are over 50% rental units in the city. And I know that it will come to them as well. And our rental rates are already very high, and a lot of people are really struggling to make it. The logistics of it, I've struggled with that as well, just the space of storage. I will tell you, I talked to a neighboring community that does not mandate totes, but they've kind of done this trial thing with totes. And the one complaint that they've had is that totes are being left out at the road all the time, like the whole week. Like they never bring them back. They just take their trash now out to the totes, and they're not returning their totes to their houses. The other problem they've had is they're actually having a blight issue a little bit, because they don't want to see totes in front of garages or right next to a house or in front of a house. And they're also having that problem, that's where the totes are ending up. And they feel that has also become a blight issue. I experienced it firsthand. My daughter lives where there's totes, and I went to see her a few weeks ago, and it was a relatively windy day, but not unlike any windy days we have here. And we were literally driving like this around totes because, and she said ours blows into the road every single trash day because we have one bag of trash. There's not enough trash in it, so it doesn't weigh it down enough. It takes no wind to tip that thing over, and they end up, the way they tip, they end up in the road, and they're actually a hazard. And she said it's hit their cars a couple times as well, like if they've been parked on the road. I have those concerns as well. These are all things that I think could be worked on and looked at, and I think there are solutions, but I just don't think, Adrian, at this time, that the citizens are ready for this at this time.
Can I speak again, Mayor?
Go ahead.
First of all, I want to address just something that Commissioner Halt said in making he was making a point that trash bags don't look good on the street and totes look better. And he mentioned how many bags we see on the curb. What bothers me is, and I witnessed this a couple times last week as I drove around, you have some houses that will put out trash, 1 or 2 trash bags, and it doesn't look that bad. But then you have several houses that will put out 4 or 5 trash bags, and then there'll be other stuff like cardboard boxes or whatever that they put out along with it. Or there'll be a bag that they had a trash bag and they were going to put something in it, but it's something that doesn't really easily go into a trash bag. So it rips open the trash bag, and now it just looks trashy. Okay. So when you have the 95-gallon tote, I know that at our house, we have some crazy big furnace filters, and they just don't want to go into a plastic bag, but they will drop right into a 95-gallon tote. So you not only are making the curbs look better without having trash bags, but you're eliminating a lot of that other excess trash. But one thing, I know that there has been some pushback from people. I think pushback is normal anytime we're going to make a change. Right away, people want to say why they can't do something. And I had a couple calls from people that said, I can't handle a 95-gallon tote. My guess is that they don't have a 95-gallon tote now, and they have never experienced the 95-gallon tote. But it's just natural reaction that I can't do this, I don't want this. But I guess one thing that has been on my mind ever since we started talking about this, and when we talked about it in pre-meeting, I brought up some communities that I called, and there are other communities that have been very successful with this very same program. Okay, we haven't invented something new here. We're not the guinea pig town to do this. This is a plan that other communities have worked with for several years with good results. So I feel very good about it. I don't feel like I'm putting my neck on the line at all because other communities have been successful with it. I've also reached out to individuals I know and asked them what they pay for trash pickup or trash and recycling pickup, which is actually kind of a strange way to start any conversation, but almost everybody knows. And I tell you what, this is a pretty darn good deal for the city of Adrian. Some of the other prices that I've heard from other communities, I was very surprised about. So like I said a few minutes ago, I hope this is something that we can pass and move forward with.
Hearing no more commissioner comments, I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Strayer and Commissioner Miller. Roll call, please.
Mayor, can we open up public comment one more time, please? Just in response to what the commissioner said?
No, we just do public and then commissioner comment. Sorry about that. There will be public comment at the end, though.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
No.
Mayor Heath,
No.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
resolution is adopted by a 5 yes, 2 no vote.
Resolution R 22-027 is from the police. It is a resolution to authorize the expenditure of American Rescue Plan funds for the purchase of body cameras and taser units for the Adrian Police Department. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution.
Support.
Are there any public comments?
Good evening. Just briefly, Ben Simrick, Chief of Police for the City of Adrian. Let me start by saying thank you for your support of our budget. I have been in this role long enough to have endured some very lean years, and it's quite refreshing to see the way things have gone this year. So thank you for that support. The request in front of you is part of our, well, at one time, long-term capital budget, but that day has arrived where I hope we can make the replacement of our current body-worn cameras. What is in front of you would provide the latest in body-worn camera and taser technology to the Adrian Police Department over the next 5 years. I am asking to use grant funds in addition to rescue funds to cover that cost. It represents a significant investment in risk management and transparency, and I'm asking for your support. Thank you.
Just as a concerned citizen and a first responder and a former reservist for City of Adrian, it's a no-brainer. Okay, I have a personal body cam when I interact with people I'm not sure about, let alone the police, not just to protect them, to protect us. If I interact, I mean, it's crazy. You see it online where people have interacted with the police and the officer unfortunately was not acting in a professional manner. And that record is what protected the citizens, let alone the police department for what they go through and everything else. It protected the citizens themselves, the people who don't like cops. Okay, it's a no-brainer. I didn't even know that was on the agenda. And taser, it's a lot better than having to go hands-on. Hands-on's not fun. Okay, a taser stands back and it handles it in a more of a professional manner. It's a non-lethal response. Somebody has a knife or something. Okay, in years past, people get shot. That's not good. Taser, it's a no-brainer. That's all I can tell you.
I concur. I'm also a first responder at nighttime. And I've worked with the chief before, and I just think that it's a no-brainer, especially when like Toledo has open guns and they're having problems right now. And those people are so close to us that they can come over and you just never know what's going to happen. I think that it's a no-brainer. I think it's for the safety of our police officers and for the public. I think that it seriously needs to have, they need to have that money for those body cams.
Terry Collins, 11 Scott Court, currently a county commissioner, but speaking now as the ex-police chief of Adrian prior to Ben Semrich, who's doing an admirable job, by the way. I keep hearing this is something we should have, and I submit to you it's something we must have. This isn't a should have. This isn't a like to have. This is a must have. As was said earlier, it does protect the citizens anyway, but even more so, it protects you people. It protects the city of Adrian from litigation. It protects Vince when there's a situation where there's an allegation against one of his officers. And without the cameras, he would not have much to go on except the officer's word. And the general public said, so sure, he's going to believe his officer. But now we have verifiable, factual proof that says this is exactly what did happen and not what did. Now, I assume, sir, you are the city attorney. You could ask him how valuable these things will be to you, both now and well into the future. Thank you.
Hearing no more public comment, are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Gauss with a second from Commissioner Castleberry and Commissioner Miller. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss.
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by an all yes vote.
Resolution R 22-028 is from Fire. It is a resolution to approve the clinical training affiliation agreement and authorize the fire chief to enter into the agreement. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move we adopt the resolution.
Support.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Castleberry. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Castleberry. Yes. Commissioner Gauss.
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by an all yes vote.
Commissioners, there are miscellaneous reports in your packet. Are there any questions or comments on those? It is now time for public comment. Just to reiterate, there is a 3-minute time limit. This is public comment on anything. It does not pertain to one particular subject. And the screen will show you your time limit. We will begin first in the chambers for public comment. After there is no more public comment in the chambers, I will open it up to those Zoom participants. And for the record, please state your name and address.
My name is Dorothy Schmidt, and I live at 428 Elm Street. I am, at this time in my life, particularly concerned about the rising inflation rate to me personally, in terms of all kinds of things. Now, it's easier to get a bigger tax base if you elevate the amount that the house is worth. So it's easier for me to lose the house because I'm past 80 and 80 to 90. Every year, my employability diminishes regardless of my worth, regardless of my ability. Those things are built into the aging system. I am expected to die. Okay. I've been fighting with this system since I was 50 years old, and I'm heading towards 90. Okay, so I feel like I'm doing pretty good. But to add more costs in the terms of taxes helps me to lose my house, because I won't be able to pay them because my employability diminishes regularly. My income will not go up unless other people die. I fight with that. That is not a good way to live. And so I put this in front of you and say, don't, because it'll give you more money in taxes, don't think it will benefit me in any way. It won't. If I leave those at the minimum amount, when somebody comes to take my house, at least I've got something in my pocket I could pay it. Okay, otherwise I don't. You have a good night. Thank you.
Ken Ramos, 422 South Winter Street, like you haven't heard enough from me today. So I just want to say I'm extremely excited for the splash pad. I already mentioned that a little bit earlier, but I'm extremely excited for it. I know that there has been some discussion about it, but the community over there is excited. And of course, the organizations I belong to that are mostly over there are quite excited as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, very excited. Thought you could hear some good news.
Hi, I'm Doug Spade, 768 West Maple in Adrian. I'm only speaking as a private citizen tonight and someone who was an elected official in the past, and I wrestled with a lot of very difficult votes. I like you all, I respect you all, but I have never been more disappointed with some of you on the commission. I wanted to, first of all, I want to tell you, I don't want your totes. If you want to fine me for putting our bags out, you can do that. But I don't want them. Mr. Elliott, you can make a note of that tonight. I'm not going to deal with the totes. Now, I just want to make it clear, and had I known what the commission comments were going to be, I'd have spoken sooner. 5 of you just voted for a 100% fee increase. Residents should know that. Not a $30 or $40, but you doubled. And as a renter with 2 units, my own and another, I'm now going to pay $240 more a year. And Commissioner Strayer, in spite of your passion for this, and I respect that, for you to say I'm telling you the whole story, no, you didn't. Anyone can return a recycling tote, but they're all going to pay. You have really spun things tonight. And I have to say, that I am extremely proud of Commissioner Gauss and our mayor. At least they had the courage to stand up and say, this is not the time. You could have had your totes for trash. You could have done that. That would have been $195 instead of the current $120. You've doubled it for 90% of Adrian's residents. You don't get too far by forcing people to do things. That's not the way to encourage people to recycle. And to say, well, other people pay more for trash, that doesn't matter. I know people in California that are paying over $6 a gallon for gasoline. Does that mean we should? We're getting a good deal. So we ought to raise our gas prices. As a former elected official and a resident of Adrian for 52 years that deals with the public all the time, shame on you. You used a skewed survey that half of the people didn't even know about, and you didn't share with the media. And then I guess shame on the citizens too for not more people not coming here tonight. But then you didn't even represent it correctly to the people who were sitting here before you voted on it. And of course, then we couldn't comment until the vote was all done. Folks, remember this at election time. 5 of these commissioners voted for a 100% fee increase. A fee is a tax by another name. And you just caused rent to go up, even though the city administrator said that doesn't happen with this.
Your time is up.
And thank you very much, Mayor, for listening.
Scott Bayshore, 1045 State Street. Respecting the previous gentleman, he's right if you guys didn't tell us that, because I didn't hear that until the very end, if it has doubled the fee. Mr. Helt said it was like 6 or maybe $6 or something more. It wasn't a big increase, but if it doubled it, that's a different conversation. But what would it have been without? In respect to Mr. Goss, you shouldn't force anybody to recycle, but if you give the opportunity, that's what's important, because those that are given the opportunity with a tote or something should do it. If they could return the totes, yes, they're still going to pay for it. If a 95 gallon one is too much and you guys do amendments, as you stated, why can't they amend it to where somebody can put out their own tote? Because currently you can't with Stevenson's. You're not allowed to put out your own tote. I have a tote, bought it years ago, love them. That's me personally. Can't use it because I have to use theirs. Now it sounds like we're going to be required to use theirs. Again, I support that in that respect. The double, I'm not so sure. Okay, but if you also, and it's more of a question, they're gonna give us both a recycling, because that was my first comment. Are they they're gonna give us both a recycling one and a okay. And then like you said, you only have one bag. Somebody made the comment about they blow all over the place, which again, I respect, that does happen. Use it as a way to keep the trash out of the way. Okay, as long as the commission doesn't, if it's still on the curb, maybe you have a conversation, but as long as the commission doesn't start fining people because they see it outside their home, it's kind of hard to live with. If not now, then when? Because those type of questions of where do I put it don't matter. It's going to be that way no matter what. My house doesn't really have a spot. It's going to be kind of on the driveway, kind of in a corner. I have a bigger driveway. I'm lucky in that. But yeah, why can't somebody, as an amendment, if a 33 gallon works for them and still a tote style system, yes, it would be on their cost. Yes, that's more cost, and I'm sorry about that. But if somebody can't wheel out the 96, the bigger one, get a smaller one. You know, that's what I've always done. Okay. And yeah, I agree. I've seen them. I drive through Ann Arbor every day on my way to work, and they're sitting out there on the curb all the time. That's where people leave them. And not everybody does, but a lot of people do. That's where they leave their trash. You know, it still looks cleaner than the bags. And I don't think a lot of people realize, as far as you said, once every 2 years for bulk, a lot of people might not realize, so I'll put it right in the comments so somebody can read about it. Unless it changes, city only charges $5. If you call the city ahead of time and you want to put a couch out on the curb, you pay them $5 ahead of time. Stevens will pick it up at any trash pickup. Well, pretty much any trash pickup. They'll do it automatically. And I presume and hope that's not changing. That's just $5. And that's not a big thing when you only have an item right there. As far as the rest of it, the double the cost, but everybody else voting on it because we needed it. Yeah, if not now, when?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Commissioners. My name is Michael Lear. My address is 123 East Maumee Street. Thank you for the opportunity to take a minute to chat with you. I'd like to spend a minute chatting about the liquor allocations which are given to the city through the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. The city of Adrian has allocated 13 of the 14 allocations. You're down to a single license through the city remaining. I know in the past that the city has had an applicant. You did some due diligence and denied that final applicant for a franchisee that at this point, the franchise doesn't even serve alcohol. I hope you'll take a few minutes to do some due diligence. I've spoken to the city clerk, one of the commissioners, in an attempt to find out where the 13 allocations went. No one has that information. I reached out to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, asking where those 13 licensees that submitted through the city of Adrian, the business name, the location, and when they were allocated the license, also to no avail. So at this point, I can't give you the information where those 13 licenses are of the 53 licenses held in the city or in the city of Adrian. My concern is, as a 1970s and 1980s kid growing up, the Adrian Mall was the cool hangout. The unfortunate thing was it pulled a lot of the retail businesses out of the downtown area. After returning back to Adrian after 40 years, I'm proud of what this city has done. The downtown development, the number of people that invested literally tens of millions of dollars in the restoration and renovation of downtown buildings, bringing a lot of retail here. Even Governor Whitmer has declared Main Street, Adrian, a part of the Main Street just this past February. New development coming in on North Winter Street was just presented to this commission within the past month or so, actually. So I hope you'll do your due diligence before assigning that final 14th allocation. I do know that those for the downtown redevelopment have to jump through many hoops under a certain time frame of a 3 years or 5-year time limit during a certain amount of investment, including $175,000. and allowing a final allocation to go onto the margins of Madison Township and the South Main Street US 223 corridor. I certainly hope you'll think about it. Thank you.
Hearing no more public comment inside the city chambers, we will now open it up for Zoom participants. And also, if you are on Zoom, you still need to state your name and address, and you should see your time limit on the screen.
Ken Tokars, 110 South Locust. I think the city has this thing about being business friendly. I guess the problem is, to be business friendly, you are resident sufferers. When are you going to do something for the residents of Adrian? I mean, we have lead water lines, you do nothing about them. You raise our trash rate. Since when you guys were on the commission, we started out with a $20 million pension deficit. It's up to $27 million. I just don't see what you're doing for the citizens. I emailed you guys earlier this week with what pictures. You talk about blight in the city, and you think totes are going to resolve it. You think a point of sale is going to resolve it. I sent you pictures of what I deem as blight. It's building materials stored in front of a house. It's a couch. It's trash at the front of a house. I just don't see where there's such a disconnect between this commission and the people who live in the city of Adrian. I mean, you've got ordinances on the books. I mean, a point of sale, you have to sell the house to even start that. I mean, you got ordinances on the books that you don't enforce. I heard some gentlemen talk about snow removal. I mean, I've called about the snow removal across the street from my house. Nothing happened with that. And then this guy gets hit with a $574 fine. You got trash out in front of the house. Enforce the ordinances that are on the books to support Adrian residents. Stop letting them pick up the tab for your misgivings. Thank you.
Patty, you have your hand up. You may go, you may speak. Patty Clark, you have your hand up. You may speak if you would like. Hearing no more public comment, are there any commissioner comments? Hearing no commissioner comments, may I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
I'm trying to speak. This is Patty Clark. Can you hear me now?
Go ahead. We can
I'm
hear
so
you now.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was trying. Patricia Clark, 556 North Mackenzie. And I would like to echo Doug Spade's comments. Exactly. The doubling of a trash bill for 10% of people who would voluntarily recycle and pay $31 a year to have that capability. When we still have that service available to us, I do recycle, but I do it in a very small tote. And when I need to, I take it to the trash site, or we have recycling at work. I'm able to do some of that there. But the requiring of a tote and storage of 2 totes and then not being able to return them, but still having to pay for them. I don't even mind that you require a tote, a small tote that I could purchase myself and take to the curb. But I guarantee you I have no place to store them. And guess what? My totes will be at the curb probably most of the time because I have no place to store them. And so I think doubling, where I was happy to pay an increase, I understand that. But doubling and forcing people is not a progressive. And I echo Doug Spade's comments 1000%. Thank you.
I have a motion to adjourn from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Miller.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.